this is the President. Hello, this is the President of the United States. Who is this? Is it you again?
Look behind you.
This is my private line. How did you get through?
They're everywhere. All the time. We see them every day. But you have to look behind you.
There is nothing behind me. How did you get this number?
The spaceman told me.
What spaceman?
It doesn't matter. I'm telling you about monsters. Please, you must look behind you.
Young lady, there are no monsters in the Oval Office.
The loudspeaker spoke up and said,
Wait, Sammy.
the loudspeaker spoke up and said, the loudspeaker spoke up and said, give up, give up, give up, give up, give up.
Wait, Sammy. Wait, Sammy. Wait, Sammy.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. Tonight, Ground Zero, the numbers to call, 1-888-673-3700. That's 1-888-673-3700. And tonight, a special show planned for you. Special show because tonight we debut Ground Zero on a national level, and we also debut a special guest. His name is Freeman. Well known by everyone on the internet, well known by everyone who attends conventions, also the esoteric conventions that are out there where people talk about the things we talk about here at Ground Zero. And we're very glad to be broadcasting live tonight for all of you. And this show is going to really, really hit the nail on the head when it comes to what's really going on in the darkest back areas, the underbelly of what's going on in the real world. You see, we've always felt at Ground Zero that the supernatural order, when realized, paves the way to answer the questions of the natural order, even the nature of chaos and all that it entails. We live in a chaotic world. There's no doubt about that. And many people want to know the answers as to what's going on. Many people say, well, I need to know because for some reason the world doesn't feel right to me. And I've stated several times in the history of my shows that while we all have our various beliefs, all the various beliefs we cling to, all the various religious denominations we want to identify with, there is spirituality beyond the norms of general society that is practiced among the elite. They do not have the same morality as we do. We have a different morality. We have a spirituality that is supposed to be of the light. We are supposed to feel as though we have the light. But those who are in power anymore they're showing us that the spirituality is more of a dark and a ritualistic pantheon that some may be considered Luciferian or satanic. And so to expose that is something that we do at Ground Zero. We expose what the elite are doing that's paranormal. We expose the paranormal underbelly. We want to tell you about the ghosts. We want to tell you about the supernatural things. We want to tell you about the cryptozoology, why things happen, the strange patterns. But of course, we need your input as well because the experience of the paranormal is the life experience. In fact, as we're looking about the world and how the world is being made and what's going on behind the scenes, there seems to be a faction of, I guess you could say, paganism or some sort of contemporary Satanism that will not even be touched by those who practice these things. What I'm trying to say is when I refer to that, I'm not referring to your average everyday Wiccan. Nor am I referring to your LaVeyan Satanists. No, I'm referring to the theistic aspects of what this is all about, the darker aspects of ritualistic black magic that exists on planet Earth, that the elite are practicing. And I've been pointing out the patterns and symbolism that have led me on the path of this synchromysticism. Names and numbers have triggered a chilling template that something dark and sinister is in control, that even evil has a perverted intelligence behind it. The more you dig, the more you learn that there isn't just a good or an evil. There is also a denial of the light, a sociopathic denial, and all responsibility to mankind is thrown out. The accountability is thrown out. And this is why we need to be concerned. This is why shows like mine exist, because we really want you to pay attention to what is. We don't necessarily investigate what we want to believe. We investigate what is. And that is why Ground Zero is here. Tonight, we're very happy to have on the program Freeman. Freeman, of course, comes to us by way of his remarkable work that he's done in the past, and we want to kind of introduce you to him. Freeman, why is it that you are, I guess, an expert on this type of, I guess, esoteric, strange type of paranormal? Why are you into it? What is it about you that makes you an expert?
I was going to say lack of others. But thank you for having me on the show here, Claude.
Yeah.
Well, for 7 years now, I have been bringing to light these revelations of the occult in government, in pop culture, and so far have not been wrong. So I guess as a conspiracy theorist, as one that is trying to bring these type of unusual lights. Now, I don't do the political conspiracy as much as many others would be following. I consider that all a part of the spell.
Right.
So you're caught up in the psychology of it like Chicken Little, and you're brought into the spell by following the political schemes. But when you get to the dark back circle and you start to see what the true methodologies and what the purposes of the actions that the elite are taking, having to deal with the occult and with dark ritual magic, then you start to see the true puzzle of planet Earth, and things can come into being.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, because you take a look around you and people say, well, it isn't, some people want to say it's all good, it's all evil, it's all black, it's all white, but there are areas that most people they're not aware of, and we've explored these things on Ground Zero. You've explored them in your work. I mean, what is your background? I mean, a lot of people, you're the mystery man in all of it, and you have all this following. I'm very, very surprised. You have this huge following of people that follow you on the internet, have followed you throughout your tenure as a conspiracy theorist, or at least a conspiracy analyst. What is your background? Why do people follow you like they do?
Well, I believe it has a lot to do with genetic memory, and I believe that I was kind of set up for this situation, and I don't know exactly why or how I came to the knowledge that I have. But for 7 years, I have been putting forth, well, really much longer than that. I began speaking in 1993, but in 2005 was actually placed on television to share my ideas. And it's grown from there to this full-on following. And I think one of the main reasons people like me is because I do touch upon these topics that most of your other conspiracy truther-type speakers will not touch. The idea of the occult and what its purposes are, how it connects to high technology, how it connects to secret societies, Freemasonry, OTO, things of this nature. So, for one, I touch upon a lot of topics that no one will dare touch. Trauma-based mind control, the use of mind control in Hollywood propaganda. And then the other is that I have a absolute faith in the goodness of humanity.
Sure.
And this really actually puts me apart from many of the other truth networks that are saying that we're some sort of virus on the planet. I'm consistently shown that humans are good, loving, generous beings. So the question became, why is civilization being so misdirected? And if we have all these wonderful beings on planet Earth, and so people began following me because I was spreading not only the darker side of the puzzle, but then also the light and the synchromistic, as you had mentioned, the ideas of synchronicity and how we are being guided.
There always seems to be a silver lining somewhere. And you can find the silver lining if you're really looking for it. And I think a lot of the times people like you and me who dig into this are sometimes accused of being, I guess, doomsayers.
Right.
We're not doomsayers. I look at it as being a weatherman. You know, we see a storm coming. We tell people, hey, the storms are coming. Pay attention because there is a storm brewing. And then, you know, no one's going to fault us if the storm doesn't hit, you know, because we're telling you it's coming. But, I mean, predicting something like sunshine all the time and then having it rain, that's when you get into a lot of trouble. Right. And so, you know, there is sunshine. We do admit to the sunshine. We do admit to the light. But what we're seeing, though, is we're seeing that right now on this starship we call Earth, everybody's fighting for the steering wheel. And we don't know. It's one sociopath after another psychopath that wants to have a grip on that steering wheel. And so what we try to do is we try to unravel the truth behind those who want to take control of the steering wheel. We know that a lot of them have, I guess you could say, connections in certain areas where it's kind of strange. And it's neither good or bad that we report it, but it has to be reported and talked about. And so when you're looking at the synchromysticism, when you're looking at the zeitgeist and how people are trying to warp it, detour it, change the course of human history, it's time to pay attention to the names and numbers. They trigger a chilling template. They talk about, they show us that maybe something dark and sinister is in control, trying to fight for the control that we say that God has. God has control of everything, but yet we see other people and other powers, wicked powers, trying to take hold. And a perverted intelligence is behind it. And the more you dig, the more you learn that there just isn't a good or evil. There's a denial of the light. There's a sociopathic denial of all the responsibility. And that is what we try to uncover here. And that's what we're going to uncover tonight with you, Freeman, right here on Ground Zero. We're so glad to have you here. By the way, if you have any questions of Freeman or any questions tonight as we roll on and uncover what is going on behind the scenes, you can call us tonight at 1-888-673-3700. That's 1-888-673-3700. Tonight, my guest, Freeman, on Ground Zero. We'll be back with more. Don't go away. It's going to be one of those shows to keep you on the edge of your seat. We guarantee it. Right here at Ground Zero. The elite believe. This isn't necessarily what we believe. It's not necessarily what most Christians believe or most Muslims or Jews believe. What we have here is we have a number of artifacts that we have collected over the years where we want to explain to you just how the elite operate and how their morality is different. I was looking at a book called The Cipher of Genesis by Carlos Suarez, and it talks about the Kabbalah, it talks about ancient scripture, it talks about different books and different other supplements that they use to talk about how, for example, that Eve in the book of Genesis in the creation, she wasn't called Eve. She didn't disobey Adam. She didn't come from Adam's rib. There was no question of sin. Now, this doesn't sit well with people who are most Christians. They say, well, wait a minute, that's blasphemy. Well, of course it's blasphemy, because what it's saying is that we are the ciphers. We are Elohim's seed, and we are the ciphers of the world. We are coarse, we are brutal, we are primitive. And we have to earn our position and the favor of God, and the way to do this is power. And you have studied the Kabbalah, you've studied Freemasonry, you've studied all these things. What exactly do we take from this? Is this something that they do believe?
Yes, you absolutely have to accept this into your belief system. Now, what happens is that most people have been conditioned through education to understand the American Revolution and how we came to be. And for some strange reason in history, they've just left out the influence of orders like secret societies like Freemasonry, which are really a society with secrets rather than a secret society, since there's a Freemason lodge in every town.
Sure.
Everywhere you go, you're going to find this. Then you start to discover that actually over half the presidents have belonged to this single fraternity. You start to discover that there's certain mysteries inside of this fraternity.
Well, there are other fraternities, too, such as Skull and Bones and other groups that have been involved, and they have different rituals, and they're not necessarily all tied to real Freemasonry. They're offshoots of Freemasonry, and there are darker orders as well that are offshoots and offshoots and offshoots, and they've all, you know, they're all part of history, but we just don't talk about them because history doesn't illustrate them quite well.
Right, exactly. And Freemasonry is merely the door to open the idea to an occult government. It's just the front step to say, okay, now listen, there is occult ritual being performed by your leaders, and they have a purpose for this. They've been doing it for thousands of years.
Because it's very powerful.
Right. Well, you start to discover Albert Pike, who wrote out Morals and Dogma, and he was the Grand Sovereign Commander of the Scottish Rite Freemasons. And he was the one who wrote out their 32 degrees for Scottish Rite Freemasonry in a book called Morals and Dogma. And within that book, over 70 times, he mentions Kabbalah and the connection between Freemasonry and Kabbalah. And it was this clue that kind of led me into understanding where the signs and symbolism were going.
Mm-hmm.
And so using the knowledge that I had gained from the understanding of Kabbalah to bringing it to politics, I could look at this puzzle and say, all right, they need to cause a major terrorist attack so that they can form a homeland security. Okay, so we all know this politically speaking.
So create a crisis in order for the people to demand a solution. It's more or less like a Hegelian dialectic, where we're saying, okay, here's your crisis, we've created a crisis, now we want you to come up with a solution. You tell us what we want, and people will clamor for a police state, or they'll clamor for this, and this is why we are forced, or we actually are doing this as a knee-jerk response to some crisis.
Absolutely. But then there's another level on top of this, and that is the occult level. So I was able to say that there is going to be a major terrorist attack on the day of 9/11 back in 2001, although I was speaking of it throughout the entire late 90s with Bill Clinton, because I understood the purpose and meaning of the numbers of 9/11. Now,
sure.
These are the most satanic numbers, according to, say, Kenneth Grant of the Ordo Templi Orientis, who was an acolyte of Crowley.
Well, LaVey has said that the number 9 is the most satanic number of all.
Right, and then 11 is the number of manifestation, and
Sure.
if you take 9 and 11, you're skipping 10, which is the union or God.
Sure.
So 9/11 is a satanic or Luciferian number, and so I could have picked any day through September for them to cause a major terrorist attack to force the Homeland Security on us, but I selected 9/11 due to its Kabbalistic connections and understanding that. So another level, we attacked Baghdad, and they used the shock and awe campaign. Well, this plays in on the Hebrew of the Shekinah, which is actually the feminine God force in the Kabbalah, which was the force that came out of the Ark of the Covenant.
Well, and don't forget that when they did Operation Condor in Chile, they did that on September 11th as well, so that was another 9/11.
You can find a lot of
Yeah.
9/11s because it is their power number.
The Pentagon was built, or the ground was broke on 9/11 as
The
well.
cornerstone was masonically laid on 9/11.
And
yes.
when George Bush did his speech about the New World Order, he did it on September 11th as well.
That's
So it was like
absolutely
this,
correct.
and September 11th keep continuing, and the 9 and the 11, those are very, very sacred numbers. Aleister Crowley even said that the number 9 is the end number, or the end, and then 11, of course, is the manifestation number, which brings about the working, which, of course, is a spell or some generalized spell or causal engineering that they do, that the elite know how to do because they've learned these esoteric, I guess you could say rituals or whatever you call them, in order to take spirits and bring them down to earth and call upon those spirits to come down and do the work of the masters.
Absolutely. You can track this all the way back to Captain William Morgan, who wrote the Revelations of Freemasonry and was killed on 9/11.
Is it all Freemasonry? Is there other stuff, other groups or other types? I mean, I know we always point to the Freemasons, but there are other things. There's, like, we've heard of the Illuminati, we've heard of all these other groups that are out there, secret societies that are there performing magical rituals, or at least rituals that are considered beyond Christianity.
That's right. And Freemasonry, most of them wouldn't even open up the Book of Albert Pike.
Okay. Freeman's my guest tonight on Ground Zero. We're just kind of giving you a background of where Freeman is coming from and what he thinks. Tonight we're going to get even deeper tonight. This is probably the deepest any show has gotten into the esoteric. Tonight, the numbers to call, 1-888-673-3700. That's 1-888-673-3700. Tonight, we open your minds to the darkness, and we bring you to the light later with Freeman, my guest here on Ground Zero. We'll be back.
With Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero on FM News 101.
It began in the future.
Your message is now part of and registered in your subconscious mind. Every time you say, see, hear,
You are happy person. Imaginative thought, which is more important. Selection of breeding stock. Each day you feel more lovable, more interesting. You become more interested in others. Selection of breeding stock. Recognize and accept the friendship that people offer you. For you. Selection of breeding stock. You have a deep and sincere respect for yourself. Selection of breeding stock. For your personal worth to others. The story of meat type. It is easy for you to accept the help and cooperation of others. You see their help to you as an expression of mutual friendship and understanding. You must have quality. Like yourself because you are a expression of meat type. You accept yourself as a unique and valuable meat type. You're open, honest, and direct in your relationship. You recognize that you are exceptionally talented and masculine. This awareness makes you feel safe, but they must have quality.
Clyde Lewis. You are listening to Ground Zero. The numbers to call tonight, 1-888-673-3700. My guest is Freeman. And we're getting into some very good discussion here tonight. All right. Tonight on Ground Zero, we're trying to dig deep into what causes the chaos in this world. And we are going to reveal those things to you tonight with Freeman, because Freeman has made it his business to investigate this. And, he has actually presented involved with several seminars and presentations. One, of course, was Grounds for Baphomet, something that we did together when I performed it with him and Rex Church, who, of course, was the head of the Church of Satan at the time. We were discussing what the Satanists wanted to do with the world, and they reveal these things. I mean, of course, Rex would reveal them openly because he doesn't want to hold anything back. And what we found was that there was a lot of, there's the idea that the leaders of the world have an idea of what God is like. And what we have is we have God the divine, we have God the adversary, and God the one divine adversary. Which means that God is all one, devil and God at the same time. They have the duality thing going on. And so the indication is that God has duality like his human creation, and in order for us to become powerful, we must find a balance within our duality. We've seen this before in Star Wars. We see this in science fiction. I know you're just writing a new presentation called Science Fiction, Science Faction. And basically, the tales are told over and over again in some of the deepest science fiction. We've got Prometheus, Star Wars. All of it is the same, pretty much telling us that there is a grand order of developers, many gods, plural gods, plural ideas, duality, everything. Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, that's a deep question there. But, you suddenly flashed me to Mormons and Mitt Romney, and the fact that, Mormonism is really the attempt to make Freemasonry what Joseph Smith thought Freemasonry would be. Mm-hmm. So now we've got Mitt Romney out there, Mormonism, and their connection to the gods, their connection to these extraterrestrials, even off the planet Kolob.
Well, Mormonism is kind of an extraterrestrial religion when you think about it, because, if you really got technical, you got a 14-year-old boy that had these visions, and I guess if you know anything about Mormonism, it became, the Book of Mormon, the study of, the reactions between heavenly beings in the Americas and ancient aliens and all that stuff. It's all in the religion.
Absolutely, and it all ties right back into Freemasonry again, to use them as our prime example for things.
We went right to Mormonism. I can't believe that.
Yeah. Well, we got Mitt Romney and Barack Obama staring us down, and it's the craziest puzzle. And the fact that people could even think that these are the people that we would select to rule or to control our corporation is crazy to me. The idea of thinking of voting on one of these two people, especially as we get into what I really feel about Barack Obama. But when we get to, really that's a keynote puzzle right there that I was hoping to lead to a little bit, is the ideas. So I gave you the ideas of Albert Pike, and we were starting to talk about different affiliate orders.
Sure.
And certainly there are a number of affiliate orders outside of Freemasonry. You've got the Ordo Templi Orientis, which were the OTO. You've got the AA of Crowley. You've got the Skull and Bones. You've got the Illuminati. You've got
these are the darker.
Jesuits.
These are the darker orders,
right?
The Jesuits, of course, are the I guess you could say the army of. They call them the Friends of Jesus, but they're the Catholic army. They're the Black Popes, if you want to call them that.
And then the Knights Templar, who the Pope Ratzinger or Benedict just now exonerated from their Friday the 13th scare. So back in 1307, the Knights Templar were all killed at the stake for their blasphemy, for supposedly urinating on a cross or kissing each other on the anus.
Well, what they do is they worship the Baphomet. They worship the head, which I thought was interesting when you figure that you look at the Skull and Bones order, and what do? They have rituals with a skull, and they say it's the skull of Geronimo, but I've heard other people say that it's not the skull of Geronimo. That the big secret is it's the skull of Jesus, which is scary when you think of it.
Yeah.
It's scary to think that there are these esoteric, dark types of rituals going on, and we're told that this country is based on Christianity,
right?
That Christian values prevail. But what the truth is that they're selling Christianity so that they don't lose votes. That they're preaching it. And see, the bottom line here is that when they tell us not to use the Lord's name in vain, it's not swearing that they're talking about. They're talking about using God's name for political gain.
Right.
And they do. They use it for political gain, but they speak of it, but they don't practice it. I mean, you can't tell me that someone who puts their shoes on every day, their pants on every day, goes downstairs, pours themselves a bowl of Captain Crunch, puts in the morning paper, and knows that they were responsible for the deaths of thousands of people because they've declared war. You can't tell me that their morality is the same as my morality.
Right.
You just can't do that.
Well, let's consider Barack Obama and the idea of the religious connections in here, because what I saw with Albert Pike, who wrote out a letter to Mazzini, supposedly back in the 1800s. The letter exists. The authenticity is still questioned. But this letter outlined 3 world wars, even mentioning fascism up into the World War II. This is long before World War II. And finally completing Albert Pike's plan of a Freemasonic order, bringing about a 3rd World War, which would use the Zionists against the Muslims and the atheists versus the Christians to bring up this holy war. Now let's compare that to what happened with Barack Obama and his inauguration. So Barack Obama, let's just throw this out here and make it clear. The very words Barack Obama in the native tongue of Jesus would mean lightning from heaven, which is the very description of Satan in the Bible. So, and Satan fell like lightning from heaven, and Jesus' tongue would be, and Satan fell like Barack Obama. Look it up for yourself. I have it on Freeman TV for you to check for yourself. Okay, so his name selected. Now, we know he's not really Barack Obama. Maybe he's even Barry Soetoro. Who knows? I predicted the birther movement. I said when W is in office, the next president's eligibility will be questioned. This was part of the psychological warfare that they have outlined. So I knew that when Barack Obama came in, that the birther movement was going to begin and it was going to become a big hoopla. So now we're even seeing Donald Trump and I think even Mitt Romney getting on the birther thing.
Well, it was a joke, he claims.
Right. Well, this is a political scheme that was meant to be written into the script. W was supposed to be forced into office because W in Kabbalah is the letter of the fallen angels. So they forced the W into office and the next president would be ineligible. But beyond that, to take it to the World War III structure against the atheists and the Christians, what happened was Barack Obama was disallowed to have any minister mention the name Jesus Christ in his inaugurations. And so when Barack Obama had his inauguration and he had 3 ministers giving prayers, the first one, who was a gay Episcopal minister, came out and made his prayers to the Lord of, or the God of many understandings.
I remember that, and it was frightening. And not only that, they used Amun-Ra.
That's right.
As the cornerstone, which I thought was, wait a minute, that's an Egyptian sun god. And I did some studies on this, and I thought, wait a minute, they had so many prayers and so many invocations, and not only that, but they were also invoking the Abrahamic word, the spirit of Abraham, and they were also talking about Abraham Lincoln, the spirit of unity with Lincoln, but also it brings about the spirit of civil war, civil disunity. And I was like really frightened by this because I knew what kind of conjuring they were doing. Not only were they bringing up, they were doing the Obama thing, but they were also doing the Osama bin Laden thing, because that was another thing that was going on simultaneously. And the word Obama and Osama aren't far from the tree. They're basically the same meaning in a sense, because I was doing some reading up on that as well. So what you got is you got these invocations of all these names and all these ancient titles and lightning from heaven, or perhaps even the great warrior or whomever, and it's happening, and people don't realize this. Now, you were saying something quickly, and I want to go back because I don't want to go over too many people's heads and expect everybody to know what you're saying. You're saying W is the letter of the fallen angels?
That's correct. As I was deciphering corporate logos, now when I realized that Freemasonry and corporations, now realize corporations are nothing but a magical spell. Early Egyptian magic was talisman and contracts. So money and corporations are just ancient Egyptian magical spells.
But the W, once again.
Okay, so as I got through all the different corporate logos and related their relationship to Freemason rituals inside of the lodge, I got to Phillips 66 and was like, the gas station, and I wondered about this one. Well, if everything else fit into a Kabbalistic script that followed into the Freemasonic ritual, then 66 had to have a purpose as well.
Right.
So I looked it up very simply in a Kabbalistic dictionary. What was the number 66? And it's the number of what's known as the Qliphoth, or the fallen angels, on the dark side of the tree of life.
The Qliphoth is the perversion of the tree of life.
Right.
The perversion of the divine creation of you and me and everyone who's listening to this program.
And 6 in Hebrew is V, so 66 becomes W.
The 2 V's.
Yes.
That would mean then WWW would be 666.
Or Volkswagen.
Or something. That's a little bit to contemplate. Freeman, my guest tonight on Ground Zero. If you have any questions, 1-888-673-3700. That's 1-888-673-3700. I don't want to leave you hanging like this, because now I'm hanging too. But we're going to go back to that 66. I'm sensing the mark of the beast talk coming up here pretty soon. Is that what I got?
Oh, with Madonna on show at the Super Bowl.
Okay, sure. All right. 1-888-673-3700. I'm Clyde Lewis. Freeman's my guest here on Ground Zero. We'll be back.
It's the things that go bump in the night. Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis on FM News 101.
Tonight on Ground Zero, Freeman is with us, and yes, we are getting a little controversial, a little deep into the darkness. Why? Because you need to know this. We're talking about the Qliphoth. Is the Qliphoth, how do you say Qliphoth?
Qliphoth, yeah.
Qliphoth. The Qliphoth, of course, represents the shell, the evil twin, the doppelganger. The numbers are 66. But I detect another 6. Are we getting to this mark of the beast idea? Is that what you were getting to?
Absolutely, and you're right. Even if you were to look at Phillips 66 corporate logo, you would see that there's 6 points on the crest. So you've got this coded 666 inside of Phillips 66, or the same for Highway 66. You ever wonder why they number these things this way? I'm trying to tell you. If you want to take it one more level, like I was saying, the Volkswagen, you'll see that Hitler's Volkswagen, which was made for the car of the people, you'll see 2 V's, and then these 2 V's interlace. So first you have the 66 of the fallen angels, the Qliphoth, but crossing the 2 V's, making a third V, making 666 out of VW, because in Hebrew, 6 equals V. If you want to see what a V in Hebrew looks like, just look at your Monster drink logo, and you'll see 666
Do you know what I
in
see?
Hebrew.
You know what I saw in that logo? It was not the 666 in Hebrew. I see 3 nails.
Yeah.
It looks like 3 nails, like the crucifixion nail. It was just something that was, I thought, a little bizarre that I saw myself. Maybe it's because I have a religious background and that's what I see.
Well, it should be. I mean, you got 666 staring you in the face. Or in English, if you were to take 666 and take it into symbolism, you would get fox.
But that's everywhere. I mean, that's the thing. See, I tell people all the time that it's not the idea of accepting it. It's the idea that we are all part of it. That we're all kind of in this beastly way, and that we have to somehow get beyond it. And the way to get beyond it is to educate ourselves, to prevent ourselves from falling into the clutches of having what is known as the perversion of the tree of life or the divinity or the divine bloodline or whatever it is. And it seems that there are a lot of groups and organizations that want to try and destroy that. And they've done so because I know that the bottom line here is that a lot of these secret societies, beyond the ones we've spoken of, want to create or at least bring into the picture an empirical leader or an empirical type of externalized savior that they want to bring into the world. You were talking about Barack Obama, you were talking about Mitt Romney, you were talking about Mormons, you were talking about all this stuff. And I don't know if they're the ones that are responsible for this, but I know that there is a plot, and it's because of the Merovingian studies that I've done, and it's all part of the legends, it's all part of the whatever, is that we look at all the blasphemies and the heretics all through history that have tried to do this, and they failed. But for some reason now, they have more power to do this. They're finding power to do this. And people, I don't think, are aware of just how important it is to, I guess, educate yourself about this type of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the crux of the entire situation that we're in. If you're not looking into trauma-based mind control, if you're not looking into the occult, and you're trying to come up with your solutions and understandings, you're not going to get anywhere. You really need to understand the deeper, darker, most sinister aspects of trauma-based mind control. And we are currently working on a book about this called Weird Stuff, Operation Culture Creation. So I was giving you a little clue in there how Madonna had even displayed these very numbers. Now let's realize that she's a Kabbalist. She's an elite. She's actually related to Hillary Clinton. You'll find that Britney Spears is related to Biden. You'll find that Barack Obama's related to Brad Pitt. All of the bloodlines, really? Yeah, they put it in Us Weekly. You can look it up in the magazine if you don't trust me.
So they're all interconnected with bloodlines.
Tracking back to Vlad the Impaler, who, as Count Dracula.
Exactly.
But, so here's Madonna, and she did not disappoint me whatsoever coming out on the Super Bowl ritual, and I have outlined and identified many of these Super Bowl rituals, including the one with Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake.
Well, let's go beyond the Super Bowl. I was watching, believe it or not, highlights of the Olympics. What really got me was at the end of the Olympics where the fires were burning and then comes down the phoenix representing from the ashes rises, whatever it is they were trying to represent. And it's playing in the background as a song, "We Can Rule the World."
Right.
And I was thinking, this is the most amazing ritualistic thing I've ever seen in my life. And what it does is it burns into your head the idea of empire, the idea of a leadership where we externalize some sort of savior or have the apotheosis of some man who becomes like God or a fallen angel incarnate, more or less. It's amazing to think about. We're here with Freeman tonight on Ground Zero, 1-888-673-3700. That's 1-888-673-3700. We'll be back with more. Keep it here on Ground Zero. and this is Ground Zero. This is the show where we open up a whole new set of worms. They're paranormal worms, and sometimes they can crawl in and get into your head. And when they do, they can drive you crazy, or they can educate you. And the point is to educate you. The point is to give you something that you don't normally get anywhere else. Give it some time, and you will see that what is being said and produced on this program is up for consideration. It's not about belief. It's not about what I believe. It's not about what you believe. It's what the elite believe, because they're the ones that are in control of the whole situation. They're the ones that forge the template. They're the ones that get you to think the way they want you to think and push you in a direction where they want you to go. It's the idea of control. It's the idea of mental control. It's the idea of pushing the people, the zeitgeist in a direction where you wouldn't normally see it go. And there is a reason why we're heading in this direction, is because there is a purpose for this. There is some agenda that is there. We've been talking about this with Freeman, my guest tonight on Ground Zero. We've been talking about the agenda. We've been seeing it in rituals. We've talked about rituals we've seen, like, for example, Madonna at the Super Bowl. We talked about the closing ceremonies of the Olympics, how all this esoteric knowledge is being thrown at us. Now, are they revealing it to us because they're mocking us, or are they revealing it to only some people who are aware of what it is?
That has been a good question, and really it boiled down to me to the first thing that you would actually say when you enter one of these occult orders, and that is that you come of your own free will and accord. And so what I believe is that they give us a lot of this information. Now, you know, the subtle ones like the symbolism you might not get, but the storyline they'll put into you so that you will give your free will agreement to them. I think that's the spiritual barrier they have to pass. They have to ask for us to agree. Well,
you have to invite them in. In order to have a vampire come into your home, you have to invite it in, or a werewolf or anything else. You have to invite it in according to folklore. But see, the shadow entities and the archetypes, I've talked about this before, they can be brought forward. And when they're brought forward, there are spirits that are somehow released. They're called tulpas. And they can manifest themselves in our reality. And that's the thing that most people don't realize is that while we all say, well, are there ghosts, are there shadow people, are there shadow entities? Well, of course there are shadow entities, and they are exploited and used. There are puppet masters that exploit and use these entities, and they use them to I guess, thwart the zeitgeist, or what they do is, you know, they thwart the spirit. And I know that we're all concerned with the improprieties of science. We say, well, science shouldn't be doing this. They shouldn't be playing God. But the thing that really bothers me is, while science does what it does to try and cure diseases and to prolong life, there is another group of people that decide that they're going to take spirit, okay? They're going to take spirit and they're going to try and pervert spirit. They're going to manipulate spirit. They're going to conjure alien spirit. They're going to conjure alien entity and entity spirit. And what they do is they conjure it, and once they conjure it, they want to put it into human form. They want to incarnate the diabolical. They want to incarnate, and they want to have walking changelings, cambions, whatever you want to call them. Now, these are esoteric and occult names that we give these characters. But they're cambions, they're changelings, heck, they're even spiritual chimeras. They're a mixture of all kinds of entities brought in by the darkest of magicians and causal engineers. And so I guess that the agenda is to incarnate these darker spirits in the human form and have them attached to human form. That is the ultimate and probably the most diabolical mind control of all. Am I right?
That absolutely seems to be the case. And we take this over to the rituals that they were doing in NASA, recognizing the ancient, or the rituals and the magical efforts that the Nazis were putting forward. And they were the ones that were discovering genetic memory and realizing that, well, that's why the Monarch program of mind control is known as Monarch, because it takes 3 generations of a monarch to get to a single destination. How did the 2 generations know where they were going if the past generation was dead? So they use that as their symbol, the Monarch's programming for trauma-based mind control. This whole idea of the Nazi occult science, esoteric science, then bubbled up through the paperclip program coming over to America.
The paperclip program, of course, where they took Nazi scientists and they brought them over after the war to work for us in the space program, work for us in other programs.
Right, exactly, and Walt Disney World.
So Walt Disney World?
Absolutely. Werner von Braun was well in with Walt Disney as they were creating Project X, or the pre-planned city they know as Epcot. Now,
I didn't know that.
One of the early magicians that they had working, one of the most known about magicians that would use this type of knowledge, which is called Goetic magic or Goetia, is King Solomon. And he had a whole outline, a grimoire, a book of magic that would outline these different signs and sigils. And I challenge you to go look at the city plan of Canberra in Australia, in Astana in Kazakhstan, or even in Nashville in America, and you will see that they are using these actual seals of Solomon to bind spirits. It was one of these to control demons. As city street plans at this point. So the pre-planned city that was outlined with Werner von Braun and Walt Disney back with Epcot, the experimental prototype civilization of tomorrow, into our modern day created by Henry Kissinger and Richard Nixon.
But isn't this similar to the rituals that were being carried out? Because I've run studies on the rituals of what I guess you could say the Thules or the Vril, or the darker sciences that were produced by the Nazis in the 1940s, and even prior to that, 1930s. And then we have Aleister Crowley, who tried to do his little deal where he actually conjured a being called Lam. Now, what was Lam? Lam was a homunculus. It was a moon child, pretty much. It was the idea of creating a child from the ether and incarnating it on planet Earth. Now, what exactly is that? Is that a golem? Is that what is that?
Well, Lam actually looked very much like a gray alien. And you would, they use different terms like golem would be a good term to use. Homunculus. And but the idea is then to take this spirit and try to put it into a child. So you don't simply want to bring about this incarnation. You want it to be able to work for you. And currently, they are attempting, if we go back to Jack Parsons, we go back to Jet Propulsion's laboratories and the foundations of NASA, L. Ron Hubbard, Jack Parsons, Aleister Crowley, all trying to get into this idea of a moon child.
The Babylon working is what they called it, and it was what they went in and they did a sexual magic ritual where they were trying to bring down a spirit of Osiris or Babylon or the great whore of Babylon. They wanted to create what is known as they want to create an antichrist, pretty much. They want to create a moon child that would carry out the wishes of the master, a changeling, a groomed subject that would be the external savior of the world. Am I right?
Right. Yeah.
Is that still an agenda that's going on right now and behind the scenes? I mean, a lot of Christians believe in an antichrist. Is the antichrist alive? Is there an antichrist? I mean, I have my ideas of who the antichrist might be, but is there, in your opinion, someone who would embody the incarnate of the moonchild or the incarnate of what's been trying to be created here?
Yeah, a couple of different levels on that I would see. So when we start to look at George W. Bush.
George W. Bush, okay.
And we realize that Pauline Pierce, the mother of Barbara Bush, had gone off to France with Aleister Crowley to perform a sexual ritual, then returned and was pregnant. Now, she was married to the owner of McCall's Magazine, and so they said the pregnancy was his. But the timing might show that she was with Crowley.
So you're saying Barbara Bush would be like, not Barbara Bush, was it Barbara Bush?
Well, then Barbara Bush was the outcome, yes.
Would be the daughter of Aleister Crowley?
Right.
And then George W. Bush would be the grandson?
The grandson of the beast, yeah, exactly.
No, really?
Now consider this. Well, consider this, all right? If we want to take this puzzle and look at it. Now, what happens, Barbara Bush, or Barbara Pierce, Pauline Pierce comes back pregnant, gives birth to little Barbara, and she seems to be the daughter of Aleister Crowley. What do they do with her but hand her over to the head of the CIA, also known as Magog inside of the Skull and Bones Order? Who else would they give Crowley's daughter to,
So
right?
Magog, what do you mean Magog?
That is George H.W. Bush.
Like Magog?
He's Magog in the Skull and Bones Order.
Was that a code word or something?
Yes, they all take on names of the Book of Revelations. And so they have Gog and Magog. Although John Kerry was known as Long Devil, so I'm not sure how that one fits in. Right?
He was known as the Long Devil.
Yeah.
I didn't even know this stuff.
Yeah.
And you can back this up.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Completely.
They even got the scroll of Gog. They gave that to George W. Bush.
Gog and Magog.
Yeah.
The War of Gog and Magog, the North and the King of the North, the King of the South, if I know my Bible correctly.
Right.
Which I do know my Bible. But the Bible's like a phone book, and I guess every time you're talking about apocalyptic eschatological stuff, you have to really dig, and a lot of people do have their opinions of what eschatology is. I have a feeling, and you're talking about the moon child, we're talking grabbing a spirit and attaching it to a body. You have all these leaders where it could be done. I mean, I've heard people say that people like Barack Obama perhaps were groomed to be president, that from the time he was conceived to now, he was groomed by groups of people to see him off into this leadership position where he's like this charismatic leader. Now, I'm not saying that Barack Obama is the Antichrist, and I would never say that, but what I'm saying is we do see these we see this apotheosis happening in America where we have to externalize saviors. We externalize saviors in our leaders, and that's why it's so important to vote for either Mitt Romney or Barack Obama, because we're voting for the savior of the next 4 years.
Right.
And we're expecting hope, and we're expecting change, we're expecting things to happen, and there's so many weird and esoteric things connected, and so many speculations that if you speculate on a level that is what we're speculating on, which is the darker levels of, I guess you could say, the paranormal with these leaders, I don't think it's any different speculating about the paranormal than it is to speculate whether or not Barack Obama is a communist, or whether or not Mitt Romney is putting forth the agenda of the Masons or whomever with Mormonism. I just think that there is some sort of esoteric, paranormal underpinnings with everything that happens, and we have to examine these things and open up the dialogue. And so, Freeman, that's why I'm glad you're on the program. No matter how uncomfortable this may sound to people, it has to be brought up, and we are touching on these subjects that most people don't hear, so I thank you for that. 1-888-673-3700. That's 1-888-673-3700. If you want to phone in tonight, talk with Freeman, my guest. We will be getting the phone calls coming up on Ground Zero. Don't go away.
This is Ground Zero on FM News 101.
On with the conjuring of spirits, the creation of these spirits and putting them into the minds of people. The mind is a terrible thing to waste, but to control it and to manipulate it and to have spirits, demonic and diabolical spirits, attached to it is another thing entirely. We go now to the calls. Let's go to Tennessee and Bradford. Bradford, hi, you're on Ground Zero.
Yeah, hi, how you guys doing tonight?
Good, go ahead.
Freeman, man, I just want to tell you, your information's unbelievable. I got turned on to you a few months ago, and I can't thank you enough about all your insights and everything you're putting up, man. It's literally changing my life. And my question was, okay, let me take a breath. When do you think this new space invasion is going to happen? Is it going to happen after our new president is elected, or do you think it's going to happen within the next couple of years? Do you have a timetable on that? And do you think it's going to be like a huge, false flag operation coming in, trying to freak everybody out? Because as we all know, the Earth is rotating at a faster axis, and which is thus making our consciousness really insane, and that's why people are going insane right now. But
let me just ask Freeman. So you talk about an invasion of what? Aliens, entities? Is it a false flag? Is it fake, or is there a real invasion of these discarnate entities?
Well, on many levels, the invasion happened thousands of years ago, and so if extraterrestrials are visiting planet Earth, they have been, continue to, and will be. But what we're looking at here is an agenda, like I've been talking about the sociological programming. So when Wernher von Braun came out with Carol Rosin and kept saying, now look, we have this, there's a plan in order to weaponize space to fight off good aliens, according to Wernher von Braun. And so they would use the Red Scare, terrorism, asteroids, and then aliens invasion. Mm-hmm. And he kept speaking of multiverses, and that this was the last card. So we began to outline this back when Obama started weaponizing space with the X-37B, the HTV-2. These are secret space shuttle programs, secret-backed NASA programs that are not secret, but what they're doing is. So I have a section on FreemanTV.com that you can follow the Space War news so that you can keep up with all of that.
Sure.
But in this outline, we saw that they were going to use these ploys, according to Wernher von Braun, the Nazi SS officer, saying that this would happen. So I said, okay, well, next is an asteroid. And lo and behold, if they didn't announce, well, there's an asteroid hurtling towards planet Earth, and it's called Apophis.
Yeah, Apophis. Yeah.
And, of course, that is the Satan of Akhenaten's religion. So all of a sudden, we have a satanic-type being coming down to strike planet Earth. But why Apophis? They later said, no, actually, it's a 1 in a billion chance that Apophis would strike Earth in 2029 or 2036. But they highlighted Apophis and they frightened people, and they got Jet Propulsion's laboratories to get their asteroid watch going, and all of the weaponization of space went to fruition.
Sure.
So the next part of the puzzle was the false flag alien invasion, and I personally have seen a large V-shaped craft that I believe was actually U.S. military, and what I've been covering in Paranoia magazine recently is the idea of the United States Space Force.
Sure.
Which is coming to fruition already, in Space Command.
So
is
everything? I mean, when we were talking about aliens, I mean, are aliens are they physical beings? Are there discarnate alien entities that they're bringing down? I mean, that's what Parsons and Hubbard were doing with the Babylon Working back in '47. I mean, they said that they brought something in, and it was immediately after that we had the Roswell crash, we had the appearance of the alien spacecraft over the mountains in the Northwest. What was it, Mount Rainier?
Right.
Kenneth Arnold saw the flying saucers or the flying discs or whatever they were. So it was and even before then, we had the Vril, which was what the Nazis talked about, their secret chiefs flying their flying saucers. So are we saying that these aliens are demonic in nature? They're entities they're magical and dark? I mean, is that what we're dealing with here? Is some wicked group of discarnate entities, or even entities that exist that are like under the control of something bigger?
Yes, if we're looking to the elite, not just as an overall generation or general picture of aliens, no. But if we're looking to what the elite are doing and who they seem to be contacting, now we have evidence to show that during, with Uri Geller, they were channeling a group of extraterrestrials known as the Nine.
Even Gene Roddenberry was part of that, and he did Star Trek.
That's why you've got the 9 characters of Star Trek.
They were like the Aeneid, is what, the Aeneid, or the 9, and there's also the Nazgul, the 9 from Lord of the Rings. I mean, there is a group of 9 entities, I guess.
Yes, and you'll find this symbolism consistent as well.
That's bizarre. Yeah, funny you bring that up, because I was just reading about that.
It's very possible this goes back to the Archons.
Oh, the Gnostic Archons, the idea of the invasion. So we have all these entities surrounding us, and they are trying to channel them and bring them here, and they are trying to have them attach themselves to human bodies.
Absolutely.
It's the ultimate mind control.
And it might lead to CERN.
What? The CERN. You mean the collider?
This whole puzzle, yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Now you're leaving me hanging again. 1-888-673-3700. That's 1-888-673-3700. Never a dull moment with my guest tonight. It's Freeman. If you want to call in and ask a question, by all means do. Tonight on Ground Zero, we'll be back.
FM News 101 KXL.
Sympathy and understanding between business associates. Desire. Lasting friendships. Desire. Harmonious family relationships. And spiritual peace of mind.
Your only chance to evacuate is to leave with us. Leave with us. Leave with us. Evacuate with us. I am God.
Terrifying evil.
You're gonna like it. I think you're gonna feel you belong.
Your mind. It is the center of your life. It is everything you hear. Everything you see. Everything you feel. It is everything you are. How would you know if someone stole your mind?
Once they join up, we're able to get them off to one of our retreats, change their diet, start feeding them propaganda, repeating the same thing over and over again until they forget who they are and start responding only to our dogma.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. We are all concerned with the improprieties of science producing the physical Frankenstein. However, beyond biology, there are magicians who are more than capable of transferring a spirit or soul into the body of a fetus, in the body of a human living being, breathing being. That is a homunculus. It follows the will of the puppet master. This is the true nature of playing God and violating the natural laws. We tend to think that the body is the sacred temple that should not be tampered with. However, it is the cognitive liberty and holding the soul captive that's far more profane, in my opinion. It's resulted in the possession of many human forms, and this magical work upon which is based is said to be derived from several places, many occult circles. I was reading, I think, something that you wrote, Freeman, about how, I guess, the people of Asia Minor, the Hittites, and several others, Syria, they used to be able to do that. They would take alien entities and they would place them into human containers, or they were able to put them in gold statues. So there would be spirits in statues, spirits in other human containers that were taken from some alien source. So the idea of an invasion could be something that we invite ourselves, that we are actually, we're actually bringing the demons to us and inviting them into our lives.
Yeah, what if it wasn't even through craft at all, but through our minds that we opened this extraterrestrial current? That was one thing that Crowley absolutely spoke about, Aleister Crowley being the lead magician who was opening these, the qliphothic powers and going through Goetia magic, began to question his own activities, saying that he would open an extraterrestrial current into society. So now we're linking this to the point where we're getting to mind transfer technologies coupled with radio frequency transmitters that are capable of shooting these very minds, souls, and everything to other planets or other other bodies.
Well, not only that, but now they have electronic means to transfer bodies, transfer spirits. They're going to 2045. They're saying they're going to have that technology available to capture spirits, throw them into the bodies, artificial bodies, transhumanism, all that stuff. So the idea that, I was always taught that God is the God of my spirit, and to have someone tamper with my spirit, my cognitive liberty, I think is far more profane and far more evil than someone who's decided to attach a chip to me or put a bionic arm to me. Let's go to Tom right now. Tom is calling from Texas. Tom, you're on Ground Zero. Go ahead.
How you doing? I'm new to your program. Well, where are you broadcasting out of?
We're broadcasting out of Portland, Oregon.
Oh, okay. Anyway, are you on every night, or? Because that's the first time I ever heard you.
What's that?
Are you on every night?
Well, they're starting us. We're starting now, yeah. We have now gone national. We are now a part of your life. We are on your radio station out there in Texas. So what's your question?
Okay. Well, when I first moved to Texas from Chicago, I had a roommate, and he had a sister that seemed to have a crush on me, a young Mexican girl. And she approached me one afternoon. It was getting, about kind of late, and she said, Tom, I can conjure demons. And she had this huge smile on her face, a real confident look. And I was a new Christian, and I just didn't know what to think,
Mm-hmm.
I had never seen a demon before. I knew the Bible talked about them, but I didn't know if she was just flirting with me or what, But she said, I said, well, okay, go ahead, And she said, well, it's a little too early, and your dog is in the room. The last time we brought a demon in, it killed the dog. It ran it into a coffee table and killed it. It's a big Weimar on her. I said, well, I don't want you to kill my dog, so, some other time. She said, bye. So I kind of forgot about it, and it was Halloween night came up. It was 3:30 in the morning, and all of a sudden the room got real cold, and it was like a blast of cold air. And this big black being came down on me and tried to wrap itself around my throat and it seemed like it was trying to strangle me. And I just called it in the name of Jesus, and it got up off of me.
Mm-hmm.
But for 22 years after that, I would see these shadowy type beings, and occasionally I would see the gargoyle types, And actually, I struck one night in Amarillo, Texas, a big one. It was the size of a polar bear. I had a wingspan from a bumper to bumper of a medium-sized car, according to my wife.
So it was a winged creature that you struck?
Yeah, I struck him. I smacked him as hard as I could. It was like hitting a bear, though. It had no effect on it. The thing was so strong, it just picked me up and threw me down on the pillow and tried to smother me in a pillow. And my wife was screaming, what is it? She said I had a huge wingspan, though. I felt the wings beating, when it took off. It went up through the ceiling.
Yeah.
So I didn't get a good look at that one. I just saw a big black form, but I saw a small one. It was about the size of a teddy bear in 1996 in South Texas, and it was in my house, and I smacked him too. And, I mean, it was solid. It was solid, just like a little animal. It was about 12 pounds. It had little red eyes and wings, and it was kind of cute, you know.
Do you think that this encounter with this young girl made you an attractor to these demons? Is this why? I mean,
apparently so, because they would come around about every 6 months. I would see them. They'd float through walls or come down through the ceiling, and I'd let them hang around for a while, and I'd command them to leave in Jesus' name. And
well, give me one on camera, and I think we'll be talking here. I mean, if you can get one on camera for me, you know.
They had a picture. They had a statue of one that looked just like the ones I saw. The last time I saw anything like that was in 2002 October. There was hundreds of them that I saw. They were gargoyle types, and they had a statue of one in Bastrop, Texas, behind the post office.
Why would they have something like that in Texas?
I don't know, but I mean, I've talked to 30 people. Honest to God, I've talked to 30 people. I thought I was special, you know. I thought, well, God must be a great warrior for God. That's why they're attacking me. But then I've talked to so many people that have seen them just like I have. My sister saw a bright orange one. The Jimmy, the guy at Walmart, saw a pinkish one with long pointed ears and little laser eyes. And my neighbors in Cedar Creek had seen 3 tall, thin ones in their house.
Wow.
You know.
So they come in all shapes, sizes, and colors.
Kind of demonic. They're getting stirred up or something. They're coming out of the woodwork. Well, I've talked to so many people that have seen them. I'm not kidding you.
Well, Tom, I really appreciate you calling in and sharing that with us tonight.
All right, man.
Take care. Bye-bye. You know, the demon-haunted world is real. You know, and I don't know if, you know, there are people who see things out of the corner of their eye. There are people that have encounters with these things. I mean, quite frankly, I'm a big Mothman guy. I love Mothman. When he was talking about this big polar bear wing thing, I'm thinking, you know, my ears perk up. But the idea of these hideous entities, I mean, they've been around since biblical times. They've been written about even what is known as there's actually alleged books prior to Genesis where they talk about a second Genesis. And science is even talking to us about a second Genesis where there are entities or beings that we don't even account for. I guess crypto beings is what they call them.
Well, I keep thinking how Disney is teaching children to invoke these into their being as well. They have these 2, Percy Jackson and then the Kane Chronicles.
What about Chernobog? You remember Chernobog?
No.
Chernobog was the first demon I ever saw in my life. Chernobog is, remember the Night on Bald Mountain in Fantasia? Did you ever see Fantasia?
Oh, sure.
Okay. At the end of the film, there is this segment called The Night on Bald Mountain. And what it is that Bald Mountain turns into this large winged demon.
Right.
And the demon, of course, was patterned after Bela Lugosi. He's the guy that did all the shots for it. So they drew this huge demon. They called him Chernobog. And it's based on the Cernabog or the Cernunnos or the horned god.
Right.
You know, and that's where the name Cern comes from. Cernunnos, the horned god, the devil. And so this devil with big wings starts rising all of these other demons out of their graves. And then there's this huge bell that rings. And you look up and you see the light, and it's God trying to get Chernobog to shut down and to shut up. And he says no, and then all of a sudden these angels come and they sing Ave Maria, and everything's all beautiful and wonderful and everything. It was the most frightening thing I ever saw. I wouldn't even let my kids see that ever, because it was just too frightening for me. It was my first exposure to demons, and it was from a Disney movie. So There you go. 1-888-673-3700. That's 1-888-673-3700. Tonight, Freeman is my guest on Ground Zero, getting into some of the esoteric and the darker side right here on Ground Zero. Don't go away.
FM News 101 KXL.
Back to Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis on FM News 101.
Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis.
888-673-3700, the number to call tonight for Ground Zero. My guest tonight is Freeman. Freeman is on the show tonight. We're talking about all kinds of esoteric stuff, some strange stuff going on, of course. Anything from demons to secret societies to you name it. We go now to Brian in Orlando. Hi, Brian. You're on Ground Zero.
How's it going, guys?
Good. How are you?
I'm really good. I kind of disagree with 9 being Satan's number and not God's because if you think about it for a second, you take 9, you multiply it by any number, 3, 4, anything. Say 3 times 9 equals 27. 2 plus 7 equals 9.
That's why it's
4
satanic.
times 9 equals 36.
That's why it's satanic. No, it's not the opposite.
Comes back to God.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not. And you can quote Aleister Crowley, who is known as the great satanic magician, saying that the number 9 is the satanic number. You can also talk to Anton LaVey, who is the Black Pope of Satanism, saying that 9 is the most satanic number because of that very reason. It's the arrogant number. That's why they call it, because no matter how you add or subtract from it, it always adds up to 9.
And in addition to the fact that 9 plus 0 equals 9, 1 plus 8 equals 9, all the numbers 2, 7 equal 9, all comes down to 9. And the 9th letter of the alphabet is what? I.
Yeah, but that doesn't take away from the claim of both of the chief Satanists of the world, Aleister Crowley and Anton LaVey, that the number 9 is the satanic number.
But see, I would say to Anton and Aleister that in fact God, who created everything, is speaking through those numbers.
God has never said that 9 is a sacred number. God blessed the 7th day. 7 has been the number of the holy number of God. 7 was the number. 216 is the number closest to God. 216 cubed is 666, which of course is the beast, which is the perversion of the numbers.
But 216, 216 equals 9.
Still, though, 9 is the satanic number. It's the base satanic number, and it's 11. 11 is the number of the initiate.
I think that's a belief.
Well, your belief is that 9 is of God, but in reality, magicians, both the profane and the ones that do the other magic, say that 9 is the symbol of the devil, or it is the symbol of the end. It's the end of sequence. 9, novum.
But it is a harmonizer, actually, because it brings everything back into harmony.
Harmony in what way?
Because you can multiply anything by it and come to that unifying point of 9.
Right.
Everything.
That's why it's a trickster number.
A trickster number.
That's why it's a trickster number. It's because of that.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying it is because that is what the magicians say. It's the magic number. 9 is the number of magic. It's the number of the dark arts. It's the number that is you can talk to any Satanist, any witch, talk to any practitioner of the craft, any causal engineer. He'll tell you that 9 is the crafty number. It is the number of the devil.
Well, I'm going to have to become a witch then. Thanks for your help. Have a great night. Bye.
No problem. Well, it doesn't mean divinity. It means the confusion, and it's the idea 9 is the end of everything.
Right.
Then you begin again with 10, but if you skip 10 and go right to 11, it's the number of the initiate, and that is what Crowley has said. Crowley said you go to 9, and then the number of the initiate is 11, and the 9-11 combined is the number of destruction. I mean, if you... Okay.
There's an entire chapter on this in The Beast and the Hidden God.
Go to the Bible. Revelation chapter 9, verse 11. What does it talk about? The destroying angel, the king of the abyss.
Right.
Coming from the abyss is the creation of the destroyer, the moon child, the fallen angel, the Antichrist, Abaddon, Apollyon.
Right.
And that's exact. I mean, it was funny because even Revelation number 9 was what they had on the Beatles album that played backwards, Helter Skelter.
Right.
And when Charles Manson was overwhelmed by this, he said that it was based on Revelation chapter 9, verse 11, talking about the destroyer raising from the abyss, and the I guess he called them the locusts coming from the abyss, the pestilence, and the Beatles were the beautiful haired beings with the breastplates of iron that played guitars.
Right.
And he was like, Manson was off on this. It was because of the mind control that existed in Revolution number 9. You play it backwards, it goes number 9, number 9, number 9, forward, and then backwards it said, turn me on, dead man, turn me on, dead man. And it's because the number 9 mesmerized him. It was the mesmerizing of that great number, the strange number of 9. And if you get into the sequences of this, and your mind gets into the cognitive sequential, I guess you could say, trip that we get into, eventually 9 show up, 9/11 show up. I mean, take a look at what happened with the Aurora shooting. You got the Century 16 theaters, right? What is a century? It's 100 years.
Right.
So you take that and add it to the 16, you got 116, right?
Right.
Okay, you turn that upside down, and what do you got?
9/11.
9/11. How many counts of attempted murder did Mr. Aurora James Holmes get? 116, right? There were 12 deaths that were reported. One died, a baby died, so you could add that to 13. So you have another Illuminous number, which is 13. You've got 116 turned over as 9/11. So you've got the 9/11 sequence happening again in reverse. So you have the obverse and the reverse. You've got, gosh, there's so many things I could talk about here. The 999 being 666 obverse. So the 9 is the satanic number.
Hey, I just got to go with what the experts say. You know,
this is what I've been taught, and I mean, and I know this is new for a lot of people, and it's hard to swallow for a lot of people because they're used to hearing what their preachers tell them and what their bishops tell them and what their popes and priests tell them. But there's esoteric knowledge beyond what Christianity tells you.
I think that's a huge problem. I think that the ministers need to be getting out here and opening up these understandings to their flocks. Really, I feel like a minister in that every week I come out with a sermon and try to, show people the darker side of reality and give you answers, give you purpose, give you understanding.
Sure. And I agree. I agree that, if you read about the kings, the magicians, all of them, they were summoned for their opinion on the best times for war, the best times for the people to, harvest. I mean, the magicians ruled. There was John Dee. There was Ed Kelly. These guys, John Dee was the original 007. He worked as a spy for the Queen, and the Queen was, he used magic as espionage, and they wanted to summon Enochian angels. They wanted to summon goetic demons to bring about the apocalypse.
And it's still going on today.
It's still going on today with ritualism in the background. If we talk about this, and it sounds controversial to you, there are people out there that want to bring about the end of the world.
That's right.
They want to because they know that when the dust clears and all the desolation and destruction is over with, they can capitalize on it and get you to do what they want. That's what I mean by the hijacking of the mind. I mean, we've all gone through this. In the 60s, we had Manson, we had Rosemary's Baby was about the Moonchild, raising a child up from corruption. I mean, it's all there. You just got to see it. Freeman, my guest tonight on Ground Zero, 1-888-673-3700, 1-888-673-3700. We'll be back.
FM News 101 KX.
Some of the scenes you will witness may appear to border on fantasy.
Stand by.
You have 5 seconds. 5. Information is free. 4. 3. There is hope. 1.
The loudspeaker spoke up and said,
Wayne City.
The loudspeaker spoke up and said,
Wayne City.
The loudspeaker spoke up and said,
Wayne City.
Give up. Give up. Give up. Give up. Give up.
Wayne City. Wayne City. Wayne City.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. Tonight we're talking about all kinds of strange esoteric knowledge with my guest Freeman, of course, discussing some of the darker aspects of what's going on in the world, talking about the idea of hijacking a soul, whether we can definitely tamper with one in the womb is one thing. They say they can do that. Whether or not these are alien entities or discarded alien entities, we're still up for discussion on that. We know that there were rituals performed. Of course, Aleister Crowley performed the Alan Manantra working, which was he brought down a homunculus, which looks like an alien, called Lamb. In 1947, John Whiteside Parsons, who was an aerospace engineer, and L. Ron Hubbard were the magicians who performed sex magic ritual with Margie Cameron, bringing about something called the Babylon working, which was a goetic evocation calling upon beings to do the bidding of a magician, creating a homunculus, or what is known as the moon child. There's speculation as to whether or not moon children have been created already, that some of our leaders, like perhaps Barack Obama, Prince William, several others, are changelings or are cambions, or, you know, the magical beings that are under control of controllers from the dark. And, you know, all of this stuff is esoteric knowledge not many people know about. I mean, with experiment and ritual, the idea of consciousness being transferred from body to body, and the idea of spirit transference from the fetus, or to the fetus, or to a living body having a spirit attach, is something that sounds like it's out of science fiction. I mean, artificial intelligence and the right of spirit replacement, you know, is a really bizarre subject to cover. And I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, you've got to be out of your mind, this can't be done. But I was just reading today about how, I guess it was in California or somewhere else, the University of California, University of Oxford in Geneva, they have figured out a way now to extract sensitive information from a person's head, such as PIN numbers, bank information, maybe even no intent for criminal activity. So now they can do pre-crime or pre-thought, because they're able to, it's called the P300 signal. They can determine what people are thinking, what they're doing, and so now they have the ability to extract spiritual consciousness from the brain, whether it be criminal, whether it be good, whether it be bad, whether it be whatever. So this is kind of, in my opinion, spiritual tampering, cognitive liberty issues here, where we're playing with the mind, we're playing with the spirit, we're playing with the soul and the core belief. This is something that the magicians were trying to do in the past. Now with technology, we're able to extract a spirit, and in 2045, they're saying they're going to be able to take a human soul, take it out of the body, and put it into an artificial body or an artificial brain, and then transfer it into a human body by 2045. Have you heard about this?
This is actually what my article on Paranoia Magazine is actually about. You can find much more about this on freemantv.com. I've covered this for a long time, all the way back to Anna Nicole's death, when we get into what you might see some of the pop culture. Now, I had mentioned that some high-profile rituals, like the Super Bowls, when we saw Janet Jackson bare her breast, she had a sundial on her bared nipple, and this was a hermaphroditic symbol showing the male and female god-goddess symbolism that is in the Kabbalah of hermaphrodites. So then Madonna showing her symbolism in the Super Bowl. In the most latest Super Bowl, she came out, stood on a VV, as we had discussed, VV being 66, the number of the fallen angels, and then that VV made into an OX. And if you check with Kenneth Grant and other magicians in the dark arts, you will find that the OX is actually the mark of the beast. And so even on the X-Men, you'll see the same OX symbolism. Now, O in English is the 15th letter, which makes 156, and X is the 24th letter, making 246.
Yeah.
So 66 again in the OX, which is the mark of the beast according to the symbols.
And the other six added to those 2 6s is man's part in this. So we've got the DNA of mankind and the perversion of the 6-6, or what do you call it, the Clipo?
The Qliphoth.
The Qliphoth. The Qliphoth is the perversion of the divinity of the bloodline of mankind. Therefore, the mark of the beast is the warping and the stopping of the transcendency of mankind. Therefore, when the DNA is tampered with, when the spirit and the soul is tampered with, you are dealing in a realm that is beastly in nature, and we have been warned about this. Don't mess with souls. Don't mess with the spirit nature of mankind. And look at the numbers. The number 6, the number 6, and the number 6. The 66 is the number of the fallen angels, and 6 is man, the number of man. And also, too, if you take mankind and you bring them down to their carbon base, it's 6 neutrons, 6 protons, and 6 electrons. So we're looking at blood, we're looking at DNA, we're looking at the mark of the beast when you're talking about that sort of thing. Am I right or wrong?
Right. And this all boils into that same puzzle. So when Anna Nicole was actually impregnated, there was much questions about who was the daddy and how this all happened. And the one person to come out that said, you know, is actually me. It happened at a ritual that no one remembers. I had sex with Anna Nicole. The man that says he was the father of Anna Nicole's baby, Danny Lynn, was Prince Frederick von Anhalt. And when you go search the history of Prince Frederick von Anhalt, who owns Zsa Zsa Gabor, keeps him locked in his mansion with a padlock. One of the earlier trauma-based mind control slaves that they would use. So you have like Marilyn Monroe, you have Zsa Zsa Gabor, up to Anna Nicole, and Anna Nicole's baby girl, now the progeny of Prince Frederick von Anhalt during a ritual. And when you find out who Prince Frederick von Anhalt is, you find out he's actually a boy from Brazil situation.
He's a Hitler guy.
He is.
He's a Nazi clone.
They used Adolf Hitler's semen, impregnated Eva Braun's sister, Gretel Braun, and produced Prince Frederick.
A moonchild.
A moonchild is Danny Lynn, his daughter.
What about, let's talk about another moonchild. What about Sharon Tate's baby? It was a moonchild as well, and when Manson showed up at the house, it was there to do that ritual. They wanted to get rid of that because of some pact that Polanski had made with the devil. Or there's so many strange things surrounding that case, too. Rosemary's Baby is about that very thing, and Polanski was directing a movie about the raising of the moonchild, or the creation of the Antichrist, or the devil incarnate, the spirit incarnate with that child.
Right.
So it's the idea of bringing about the moonchild. And that ritualism, too, was seen at the Olympics when they had that baby that they were showing laying there and all the people in their beds rising up to this child.
Well, yeah, nothing like having Voldemort, your serpent demon, coming down to kill all the babies at the Olympics. And also there was a 66 symbolism at the Olympics as well. And, of course, the Olympics being the 30th, being XXX is 666 there. But, Voldemort coming down, killing all of these babies. I could have made a list as to what symbolism they should show in the Olympics, and I would have been correct all the way down to the Scarlet Woman I didn't see yet in the Olympics, but they had the 66.
So is the ritualism of the moonchild at the Olympics, talking about the rise of the Antichrist.
Right, and you could take this straight to Katy Perry and her video E.T., where she says, I want to be a victim, I want to be abducted, fill me with your poison, you're of a different DNA, you're an alien, you're an extraterrestrial, you're a demon, she says. So they connect this paranormal with the demons, with the aliens, all into this one song. Now, you think that this is simply pop culture, that this is just something that the star came up with, but when you dig in deep enough, you realize there's a much higher level. Like I was saying with Madonna showing the VV and OX symbolism on her Super Bowl, she, of course, is going by MDNA now. Or you can go by her other Kabbalistic name, which is Esther. So you see that they are practicing these rituals. Katy Perry then came out.
MDNA, all that. She calls herself MDNA now.
Right.
See, and a lot of people don't understand this. And this is what I find very interesting. They don't understand that the message that's being sent out is the DNA is going to be tampered with.
Right.
The spiritual nature of mankind will be tampered with.
Right.
We are going to recreate mankind. The elite are going to recreate mankind. They're going to recreate trees, animals, bugs, and they're going to chip everything. Trees, animals, bugs, humans. It's all under the control of a grid that they want to control. The elite want full control, full godhood, full apotheosis, and a full spectrum, including owning spirit. Putting spirit in discarnate bodies, fetuses, and the dead. All some strange Frankenstein ritual. And you know what? I just found out something. We have an expert that just walked in. Rex Church, formerly of the Church of Satan, is going to come in here, and he's going to tell us some things. He's here. I can't believe he just walked in. We're going to have him come in and kind of set us straight, too.
Absolutely.
So that's a special treat coming up. Never a dull moment at Ground Zero. 1-888-673-3700. That's 1-888-673-3700. What a wild night, and it's our first night national. We'll be back.
FM News 101 KXL.
This is not a test. It is the future. Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis.
Okay, so now all hell's broke loose. Literally, right? Because who walks into the room but none other than the former, just Diablos Rex now, We can't talk about your satanic leanings, can we?
Well, I don't see why I should give them any COS any credit to this, because it's like my life is predicated on more than just my
you're doing
former involvement with that organization.
Yeah, but you're still a theistic, or you do have.
They're not theistic, and I am.
So you are theistic, and you know a lot about what the Satanists are up to and what the secret societies are up to, being that you were a Magister Templi of said organization.
It's me.
It's just you now. You're more powerful than the Church of Satan now.
I don't make any claims like that. We're different.
Okay, so you've been hearing about the conversation. We were talking about the idea of discarnate spirits being put into babies, and the idea that these magicians out there are doing this stuff. Would you concur that the satanic, a darker satanic force is doing this? They're manipulating life, and they're manipulating spirit.
The integration between technology and magic, and we're still talking about lesser magic because we're still dealing with the physical realm. But we are talking about the idea of the extraction of thoughts through the back of the brain at 300 millihertz. I think
the P300 frequency. P300 they just cracked it in California.
Right.
They said now they're able to get information out of the brain, PIN numbers, precog crime, criminal interrogations.
Right. We're still not talking about a higher level of experience.
I'm talking moonchild extraction. I'm talking Parsons. I'm talking Hubbard. I'm talking Crowley. I'm talking that they're able now to put the spirit of some discarnate alien or satanic entity in a
men
body.
Trapped in the physical world.
Exactly.
That's fine.
Like Rosemary's Baby. Right?
Well, no, I think Rosemary's Baby was something altogether different, but we definitely have the ability to be able to, at least with this type of technology, create a homunculi, an artificial human being. You could biologically engineer a being, a fetus, and you could implant it with any type of information you wanted. You could literally grow your own Antichrist.
So we can build an Antichrist now.
Right. Antichrist in a bottle. You can buy it on your store shelves.
And you could create an Antichrist in the womb, raise it to be a leader, and we could have...
Yeah, take home your own Antichrist today, so there you go.
So we can now create an Antichrist from the fetus.
That's supposed to be funny, Clyde, yeah.
You're freaking me out, Rex. We can do this now, right? We can take it...
Biology is not destiny. Nor should it be.
But how satanic is it to manipulate spirit? Look, I have no problem
There's
with
a lot of people who don't even believe that spirit exists. They believe that it's just mind.
But soul is something that now we're going to be able to download into a dead body.
Right, and there are people who also believe that soul is nothing more than just memory or just mind, too. Then there is an entirely different school of thought who believes that spirit or soul belongs to something that you can't quantify through science at this point. But let's stay in the realm of what you're talking about at this point. Stuff that can be downloaded, mind, memory, this type of thing.
Right.
We all know that Timothy Leary was a very big advocate of the idea that he should be able to have his memories, his essential essence, downloaded. After he died. I don't know how successful that was. Maybe
I can back this up with a little bit of the science. So there is a project by Henry Markram known as the Blue Brain Project. And it is their hope to be able to transmit the soul or mind. And it makes a very curious point, because whether or not we're talking about simple memory or your soul. But so the Blue Brain Project is one you can go look and research for yourself, and they need to push exabytes of data. Now, it's said that all human writing could fit into 5 exabytes. So the Blue Brain Project is currently trying to get up to exabytes of data to be able to manufacture a mammalian brain using a neuron, well, what would you call that?
That's far more satanic, Rex.
Yeah, but there's an entire school of thought that doesn't believe that there's any way that you can download soul, even though you can download mind, because they're not the same thing. Well, so if you're talking about spirit, you're talking about this element that is beyond all types of physical ephemera in all directions simultaneously.
But
you couldn't download that
Anton
because it
LaVey
belongs
say
to
that in
an
the
order
future?
of being which is outside of physical reality.
Right, but
So
didn't Anton LaVey say in the future we would all own our own artificial intelligent beings?
Well,
and we would
Anton was a
download-
huge advocate of the physical sciences too. So
transhumanism.
Well, let me have.
Well, he wasn't around when he was talking about.
What were you saying?
this type of-
Sorry.
No, please.
This is amazing.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm floored. I have to ask all these questions because I've never heard of this before. I was just looking at it today when they cracked the code of P300 frequency and said, oh, by the way, we now can read your PIN number in your brain. We now can also see if you're going to be committing crimes, thought crime, pre-crime.
Yeah, it
precog.
may very well be possible for them to be able to get into the the brain of the people and be able to do that. But there are also people whose minds, if they get into that type of thing, who have the discipline to be able to subject us to nothing but
you know what this
big
means?
black slate.
This means that they can block out belief in God. They can block out. They could actually create devils and gods. They could also give.
Why would we want to do that? We can do that with just society.
Well, we're doing it anyway. I mean, look at the program killers that are shooting up theaters and shooting up, Sikh temples and those types of things.
Well, I have no problem with ideology. They just need to select their targets with more proactive efficiency.
But Michael Jackson was an advocate of this very thing, and he hired a roboticist who made a robot called A-Rock, and A-Rock was to contain Michael Jackson's soul when he died.
What about Uri Geller? He was involved with Michael Jackson. He was his handler for a while, and he was also one of those CIA guys who was following this Spectra,
right?
This entity from space that was supposed to be. I mean, it was like what Philip K. Dick talked about. What was it Valis or
right?
That
yeah,
scene?
Marcello Truzzi pretty much knocked down a lot of stuff that was being done by Geller. He said that yes, he definitely has the ability to be able to manipulate certain things at a certain level, but he couldn't teach anybody else how to do it.
Right.
And he might have just been what would be considered an anomaly. Which, if you go back to the idea of the early Matrix films, it was like, oh, well, the anomaly is only human, too. So
it's all about, the strangeness. We were talking earlier, like Rosemary's Baby, Raising a Moonchild. We're talking about Sharon Tate. We're talking about Tate LaBianca a couple days ago. It all seems to pull together, this idea. I mean, what do they do? The baby of Tate was supposed to be a blessed child as well.
Moonchild.
Yeah, the Moonchild. Well, Rex Church is with us tonight, and also Freeman is with us tonight. It's just a bizarre night. If you want to call in, 888-673-3700. It's getting spookier and spookier. I'm freaked out. So call in, and we're going to get to the bottom of all this. We'll be back.
Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Way out in the water, you're swimming.
FM News 101 KXL.
It's the things that go bump in the night. Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis.
Reach for this one.
That's what I call confusion. That's helter-skelter. 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 Helter-skelter.
When I get to the bottom, I go back to the top of the side. When I stop and turn and I go to the right, till I get to the bottom and I see you again.
Kayak Jesus coming back everywhere. And nothing can stop it. It's a consciousness that lives in your mind. You know. Need me for high violence so they can sell this thing to the public. That's something the public have income taxes, build more prisons, and convict the public in their eyes as if they're doing the right thing, protecting. there creating more crime. We're creating the crime to beat each other. We're creating it with our media. We're creating it. Criminals are our children.
What do you want to call me a murderer for? I've never killed anyone. I don't need to kill anyone. I think it. I think it. I think it. I think it.
We've told everybody that all things are bad. Bad is not good, and good is not bad. Bad and good go together. You have to accept one to understand the other. You've got to accept yourself as God. You've got to realize you're just the devil just as much as you're God. That you're everything, and you're nothing at all.
Coming down by.
I'm Clyde Lewis. This is Ground Zero. Everything is coming up helter-skelter. The strangeness of the planet. The esoteric knowledge that we're imparting tonight. 888-673-3700. My guest Freeman, and now Rex Church from the Chaos Imperium. A lot of interesting. I mean, I'll tell you what. I've never been so caught up in a lot of things we've been discussing here. Anything from the spiritual transference you were talking about. What is it? This blue brain, and Rex talking about the P300 signal that they've cracked now. It's all part of. And see, this is where I think that this is the Frankenstein thing happening, where they gripe about the idea of man playing God with the body, but man, you're tinkering with spirit. And I was always taught in Sunday school that God is the God of spirit. Forgive me, Rex. I know that you're looking at me
I have a hard time
with your evil eyes.
No, that's what I was thinking. You went to Sunday school.
Of course, I went to Sunday school. I'm not. I'm
right. You flunked out.
No, I didn't. I was a good practicing Christian. I got good at it, and now I've retired.
Right. Well, everybody should retire.
No. I'm not going to go as far as you have. That's for sure.
Well, no, I didn't retire. I was born this way.
What? You were born a satanic minion of the devil?
Lady Gaga.
Yeah. I was aligned this way from the beginning.
So anyway,
no, Gaga's kindergarten.
Lady Gaga's kindergarten.
Yeah, her blood rituals on American Idol don't stand any comparison to the Chaos Imperium.
Yeah, I dress better too.
That's true.
Okay, so let's see. Somebody wants to talk about, and since we have you here, Rex, I want you to comment on. We're gonna go to in Billings, Montana. We have Ron calling, and he wants to talk about the symbolism of the number 9 because we were talking about the satanic number of 9. Go ahead, Ron. You're on Ground Zero.
How you doing?
Good. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey. I just, I mean, with the fight with good and evil, I just want to ask your guest there, how he thinks he's going to win. I mean, you look at everything that goes on, our movies, our culture, our society, everything is revolved around how good and evil, good and evil. And good usually wins most of the time. I'd say all the time. So I just want to ask him how he got to that point. I'm a Christian.
Okay, Ron. So Rex, he says you're on the losing team.
Well,
basically.
Yeah.
What's the question?
Well, the question is, how do you feel being on the losing team?
There you go.
Well, if he's happy with where he is, with his philosophical and religious beliefs, that's great. I have no problem with that. I don't want to change any of that.
But do you feel you're on the losing side? Because he's saying you are.
Well, first of all, are you trying to win?
Well, no, that's an opinion. An opinion is either A, something that you hold dear to your person, or B, it's a claim of omniscience. You already know everything. So
Ron, do you feel you know everything?
Oh, I definitely don't. I'm still learning. I'm in my 40s. I'm still learning.
Okay.
I'm just saying. From Adam and Eve all the way up to what are we? 2012. I mean, good usually wins over evil. I'm just asking the man. How can he basically still try, to believe in that sense, in that mindset.
Well, see, Rex was seduced by the dark side of the Force, and
first of all,
we all put our pants on one leg at a time, and that's what I tell everybody.
I don't have any legs. I got tentacles.
You know what I mean?
He's secretly the vampire that we all love and adore.
Well, exactly. We're all people.
Yeah.
But I will throw in a little analogy. Not really an analogy, but I will throw in a little thing that I learned through Art Bell and George Norrie, that our DNA has a little extra additive DNA on the bottom of our normal DNA since 47.
What are you talking about? Alien DNA?
Yes, sir.
The inactive retro DNA they're talking about. It's never been activated. They don't know what it's about.
Well,
we do know what it's about.
Has yours been activated, Rex? Yeah, you won't.
I don't know.
Well, Ron, I appreciate you sharing that with us. I didn't know that we had this DNA that we got since 47. I didn't know that I got any on me. But I do know that I'm a downwinder. That's because of the nuclear situation. But that's another story entirely. Let's go to Jeremy quickly. Jeremy, hi, you're on Ground Zero.
Hey, how's it going? Anyway, I originally wanted to call and talk about Bohemian Grove and the cremation of care ceremony, but the call vetter, I don't know if we want to do that, so I don't know what I should have said from all these yarn spinners I've been hearing so far.
Well, what do you think about some of these yarns and spinners? I mean, what's your opinion on this? I mean, now you know that that mankind is finding a way to have a control over your soul. How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't know. We've been talking about so many things. I like the ancient aliens. We can talk about 12-strand DNA. We can talk about singularity. I mean, we're into good things, but we've been wasting time. So what do you guys think about Bohemian Grove and that cremation of care?
Go ahead, Freeman. That's your bailiwick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what do you think about it? We've got you've got these elite out there doing rituals, burning baby effigies to a 40-foot stone owl, and there are presidents, there are corporate leaders, there are our judges and our police officers, and so how does that make you feel, right? But the question being that they do this in a sacred grove, as many of our magical rituals are often in a sacred grove.
Yeah.
And they actually are holding the very last vestiges of old growth right there in the Northern California, where everything else is being warped out. So what you'll see is that these guys are actually in the process of destroying the earth energy or the grid. And they're doing this on many levels. So one way was to destroy Earth tribes. And so you've got your white man, your Caucasian, your Freemasonic order, your Templars, whoever came over to America to eradicate the American Indians here. You have many levels of the way that the elite and those that we consider the crafters of our civilization have destroyed the very frequencies of life on planet Earth.
And now they want to control them.
And now they want to control them.
And they want to redesign them. Yeah, they want to redesign them.
You guys did touch on the extra-dimensional beings there. That's true. But another dichotomy, is the Bohemian Grove. I mean, how many of the people that go there are Bohemian now? There's no artist. I mean, who knows? Lady Gaga's probably doing orgies there for all we know.
That's what they do there, probably.
Well, probably just as overweight as most artists.
They're all just neo-fascist conglomerate owners.
They're not fascists. They don't dress well enough to be fascists. They couldn't live up to being a fascist.
Let's go to Susan now. Susan, hi, you're on Ground Zero. Go ahead.
Hey, Clyde. Hi, Freeman. Hi, Rex.
Hello.
Wow, what a group.
We call it the Infernal Trinity.
Yes. All right, I have a question here. I'm thinking that people are really starting to confuse what is truly diabolical. And what I mean by that, truly doing harm to other people, infringing upon their will, versus playing with symbolism. I see a lot of people playing around with all kinds of ancient symbolism without really attaching something diabolical to it. So I was wondering if someone could address that.
Which symbol are they playing with, and they're not attaching any diabolical?
A little bit ago, somebody mentioned a symbol suggesting the male and female natures of God. And I would personally view that as a very positive thing, something that we're coming back to, not diabolical at all, but recognizing that aspect that has been denied for all these centuries. So there are some out there listening who would probably consider that diabolical. And
Rex,
yet
do you have something you want to say on that?
Well, yeah, it would only be diabolical within the perspective of Christianity. Okay, you have militant Christianity, which would see anything essentially female as being somehow evil, which is tremendously hypocritical given the fact that, for instance, Catholicism goes overboard to represent itself as being masculinely represented, but allows the female to be the dominant paradigm within that. In fact, even the God that they're worshiping within that context seems to be overtly feminine. If you go back to ancient traditionalism, prior to the advent of Christianity, you have two very distinct, separate ideologies regarding spirituality. You have the chthonic, which is essentially the female. It's connected to the earth. It has to do with Gaia as the connection to the rotation of the sphere itself and the advent of the seasons and et cetera, prolactivity toward fecundity and reproduction. And then you have the Demetrian, which is actually solar and represented by the swastika and has to do with eternity. And it's a completely different element altogether. I think a lot of what is being done here is that people in general don't understand the fact that these two forms of spirituality, which are like the yin and yang, or the inverted pentagrams, like represent the duality of the universe. And yet you still have people talking about, like, well, we must not think about these things as this and that. We must think about them as one, or better yet, think of them as none. But in actuality, you have these diametrically opposed forces. It is only in the bringing of those two things together do you actually have life. So anybody who has a problem with seeing that these polarized forces are somehow opposite of each other, and yet they see them as at war with each other, it's only because the warlike activity, the bloodletting that happens between the interaction of them is absolutely necessary for the procreation of life. Because it can't happen that easily. It must be under duress.
We need life. Life comes from death, death, life, the cycle, right?
You know, you do not have... You cannot invoke creation without a certain level of destruction. They are complementary of each other.
Well, as I said in the beginning,
nature's law has absolutely nothing to do with how we moralize.
Well, as I said, the great secret is the utterance of God the divine, God the adversary. God is the one divine adversary, which is the mixture of female, male, and the aggressive, which of course is satanic.
That I am not.
Well,
all those opposing forces opposed to what I am.
Susan, thank you for the call.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. Tonight we have Rex Church of the Chaos Imperium with us, and also Freeman discussing some very, very dark, esoteric subject matter. It's something you won't get anywhere else. That's why we're here. We're Ground Zero, and we'll be back.
FM News 101 KXL.
Back to Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis on FM News 101.
This is not a test. It is the future. Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis.
Freeman is my guest tonight on Ground Zero, and Rex Diablos Church. Diablos Rex is with us tonight. And revelation right here on this program. I would say revelation. I know that we got off having to talk and get a background going on here, but the truth is that what we're revealing on this program tonight is what will not be revealed anywhere else, not in the mainstream media, nowhere. But we can go on the record now as saying that the science is there, that we now have the ability to conjure from the ether. Now, am I sounding crazy? You know what I'm trying to say? The Moonchild project, the idea of the Moonchild, which Rex has talked about, the ritualism that has gone on with Crowley and with Hubbard and with Parsons and with Dee and all these guys. The Moonchild project is a reality.
The Moonchild, the idea of soul transference, is now a reality thanks to technology. And we had the levels of magic, but now we've moved it to the levels of technology.
Now it has become techno-magic. We can actually transfer the elements that are compositional to soul or spirit, or what we interpret as that, from mind to primitive body to actually artificially created beings. This is actually the element of transhumanism.
So we can take a discarnate spirit, evil entity, alien entity, good entity, or whatever entity it may be, take that from the ether with technology and feed it into a fetus. Yes.
Any
or no?
resonant frequency could be from a prior existing being, could be downloaded into a new life form.
So we can do it into a fetus?
Let me lay back some more of the science. So we've got the Avatar program put off by Ichkov, a millionaire Russian who's trying to, or an entrepreneur.
2045.
Yeah, well, that was his goal. You know, the Blue Brain Project said in 2009 they'd have it done in 10 years. So we're talking about 2019 for the Blue Brain. But the thing was, they have to push this to exabytes of information. You know, you got your gigabyte, right? Well, an exabyte's 1 quintillion gigabytes. Okay, so that's the type of level that we're talking about here. 1 quintillion gigabytes. Imagine that hard drive.
I've got something here. Ronald Shore. We're going to get to the transference. You have something you want to tell us about CERN coming up in the transference.
Absolutely.
So we're going to talk about that, but I want to read this quickly before we go to break. This is from Ronald Shore. He's a researcher into hypnotism. He wrote this: "Only in the fetus can one conceive of an ideally pure trance state, that is a state in which there is total absence of functioning reality orientation. In the developing organism in utero, the first momentary experiences exist concretely independent of any structured background of experience. The only organization that can take place at first is that which is genetically given, but except for this natural, ontogenetically undeveloped state, there is always some degree of structuring. Namely, grooming a fetus to come out with a predetermined outcome. Not only are we designing the genes, but we're designing the personality and the soul. That is the goal. Are we?
We are talking about the Ubermensch, the Overman, the
Superman,
superhuman.
Superwoman, like the Nazis. The Nazis did it.
Huh? No, they have good ideas. They dress well.
Okay. We'll be back with more right here on Ground Zero. Freeman and my guest also, Rex Diablos Church. If you have anything like that in the conversation, 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. We'll be back. Keep it here on Ground Zero.
Ground Zero, an on-speaker experience. Cuts through the crowd. Just when you thought you were safe.
The loudspeaker spoke up and said, "Wait, Jimmy." The loudspeaker spoke up and said, the loudspeaker spoke up and said, "Give up. Give up.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. So tonight, if you've been paying attention to the program, we have learned that in ritualistic conjuring, the mark of the beast can be invoked before birth, and spirits that are not of the divine can be brought forth and placed in the unborn. An alien entity, or other can be injected into a living body, and it can be presented and preserved outside the body for insertion into another body, artificial or organic. And so what this means is that we can create a Cambion, a changeling, a moon child. We can take fallen angel spirits, put them in there. We can do the transference. And as much as it pains the ultra-religious to hear this, it has to be said that there are issues that will affect us in the near future that the Bible, with all of its alleged divinity, does not address or is incapable of addressing, which makes it more frightening, in my opinion. Tonight, Freeman is with us, and also Diabolus Rex with us. They were with us during the national broadcast, here now with us. And the phones are still lighting up from the national broadcast from what you guys are talking about. Very controversial topic tonight. In fact, from what I understand, a number of people thought it was very controversial. The reviews are in. We were very controversial tonight, guys, because of what we revealed. And what we revealed is something that, in my opinion, is more important than anything, and that is the spirit, the soul, or whatever it might be, can be taken, bottled up, or boxed, or packaged, maybe even copywritten. It just sounds scary that this is going on. And so the mind transference, the body transference, you were talking about the blue mind, we were talking about the Qipla, the Qipla, what's it called? The Qliphoth. The Qliphoth. It's hard for me to say. I keep thinking Klingon.
Well, I had to ask six magicians on how to pronounce
Qliphoth.
that. Yeah.
The Qliphoth, which is the perversion of the tree of life. The perversion of the divine.
realm of the husk.
Yeah, the husks, the shell.
The demonic realm.
Yeah.
Symbolized by the 66.
Yes.
Right.
All right, so where we're at right now, and I want to just kind of project into the future just a
Throw it all
little
out
bit.
there. Throw it all out there.
Because we're in a really strange time right now with the whole 2012 situation.
This is the most frightening topic I've ever talked about with you, Freeman, and I know Rex is, he's academic here. He knows it all.
Right.
Right? You knew about this long before I even brought it up.
Well, I knew about this, but I don't know. We've touched on a lot of subjects. So,
well, you were talking earlier.
I've had some pizza and some food.
Yeah. All right, let me lay this out for you. Let me lay this out for you, because it's not simply just the idea of mind transfer technology into a body. All right. So there's an avatar program which is setting out to put you into a clone or even into a hologram. That's their ultimate goal. So that's the Avatar project, and the Avatar project tried to get with the Advanced Department of Advanced Research, DARPA.
Yeah.
And DARPA said, well, no, we've already got an Avatar program, so we don't really need you. So they're already working on mind transfer technologies into robotic soldiers. Now, let's go up to the International Space Station. Currently, they just launched Robonaut 2, which is a robot. R2, exactly.
Yeah,
and he is a telepresence robot. Just like what I was saying with Michael Jackson's robot, this is a robot that you can transfer your soul or mind into and work around the International Space Station. Hanging out with Robonaut 2 on the International Space Station are 6 adult stem cells looking for immortality. Now, this is the 19th launch of stem cells to the International Space Station, but these last 6 were launched on the last space shuttle mission ever, Space Shuttle 134. This is where we also got the Alpha Magnetic Spectrometer up on the International Space Station, which is the device that sees the anti-universe. Now, in order to open a portal to the anti-universe, you have to manipulate antimatter. Now, what they have is the Grailator antimatter detection annihilation detector, all right? The Grailator antimatter annihilation.
Grailator.
Yeah, and their symbol is a reptilian claw as their logo for punching a hole into the anti-universe. This is to be able to keep the wormhole open. But what we found is through the Blue Brain Project and others like the Avatar program, they can also transmit your soul via radio frequency waves. So now we're looking at devices like iSCAT and HARP, which are massive antenna arrays around the globe that are able to shoot low-frequency waves up into the upper ionosphere and off into space. So to give you an example, when iSCAT went full power, they shot a Doritos commercial to Ursa Major, all right? Now, if we can make the puzzle just even worse, Disney outdid them by one more. Fox outdid them by one more by launching The Day the Earth Stood Still up to Alpha Centauri. Now, The Day the Earth Stood Still, starring Keanu Reeves, is basically a story that says humanity is so bad, aliens should just come and destroy us. Now, I don't know if you've seen the movie. Maybe I misunderstood Keanu's emotional content, but that's what I got out of the movie. And they simulcast this while it was in theaters to Alpha Centauri using the Deep Space Communications Network, and the people in Alpha Centauri are receiving it right now. So it will be by October they will be able to watch.
Keanu Reeves saying, if you die, the Earth survives. If the Earth dies, we all die.
Yeah, and then they'll have to make a decision about whether they're going to follow that or whether they're going to follow the first transmission of the Nuremberg Games, because Hitler was saying, like, with us, because, we'll curb stomp you. So, in relation to any of this, we are talking about the transference of the essential nature of all that we know about the human condition. We can talk about mind, we can talk about spirit, we can talk about personality, etc., etc. From a black magic or left hand perspective, I think that you can download a tremendous amount of information dealing with like these positions which are outside of just the regular normal functioning on a day-to-day level. And you say, well, you can download this, we can download this and this and this, because it's all part of an electrochemical process. But if you're talking about the soul, which he's saying, which at least from the perspective of like the Chaos Imperium belongs to a perspective which is outside of time and space, I don't believe that when you are creating a homunculus of this type, you're actually giving them that element. You're giving them these elements that are part of the transhumanist perspective. You're giving part of the physicality of humanity that we can totally control.
They can do with us what they want.
But the element that is the superior aspect, which is connected to a superconsciousness, they have no control over. And not to say that they don't want that, but I don't believe they can get that.
Now, CERN said that they were going to punch a hole into the other dimension, and that something may come through. Their own scientists, that they were going to open this current, what we're talking about now with the possibility of an extraterrestrial current coming through. Well, it just so happens that the LHC grid, or the Large Hadron Collider grid, the supercomputer of CERN, is capable of pushing exabytes of information, which was exactly the amount of information they needed to do this mind transfer technology.
And they had those transparencies that they were flashing during the time that had Aramaic writing. They had other writings, other runic writings, and they were sending a message out into the void to try and get the attention of some...
were premeditated.
What the hell are they doing at CERN?
All this stuff was premeditated in a film by Stephen King called The Mist.
It's a satanic ritual.
Precisely the same thing that we're talking about here.
It's a satanic ritual.
And they didn't invoke, super conscious entities. They invoked their watchdogs, just the basic primal forms of this anti-universe, which actually found their way into here, and we had no way of being able to
But it's a satanic ritual. Well, what's going on at CERN is a satanic ritual.
It's certainly opposed to, consensus reality. So, yeah, it's definitely satanic in that sense.
Well, let's just say it. I mean, CERN's corporate logo is 666 with a hyperdimensional portal, and then outside of CERN stands Shiva, where they have a quote from
the ultimate destroyer. I have become death, destroyer of worlds.
That is so weird. But
it actually wasn't Shiva. It was Vishnu, who was the seventh. Sanskrit. They can't read Sanskrit, so they don't know.
Okay, let's go to the phones. Let's go to the phones right now. Let's go to Nick. Nick Fry, calling from Utah. Nick Fry, hi. You're a wonderful director and fantastic producer. I know who you are.
Yeah, Clyde, talking of reincarnation and altered states and all this sort of stuff. Imagine my amazement when I, log on to iHeartRadio, and there you are. When I'm expecting to hear that other late night gentleman.
So and, did you like did you like the show, Nick? I just wanted to know.
I'm loving it. I'm just going. This is, firstly, it's somewhat nostalgic, of course, because you and I go back a long way, but. More importantly, this is fascinating stuff, and I think about this stuff more and more. And for your guests here, I think it's fascinating. I'm sure a lot of the audience have had maybe experiences that either they can't explain. Sometimes they're going to be maybe drug-induced. in my experience, because I just don't do that, but I have had general anesthetic. In that experience of that, I wondered where I went. Where was me? Because the chemicals altered me.
Right.
So I find that to be a fascinating thing that's stuck with me for a long time.
I was just having this conversation the other night with a friend of mine. I was talking about anesthesia because, of course, you know, when I went under the knife and I had to have my operations, I always thought to myself, the scary part about anesthesia is where do you go? Because it's like time is lost. It's almost as if you're dead for a temporary period of time and then you come back. So where does that soul essence go when you're under the influence of these heavy sedatives?
Yeah, and also the fact that they can alter your memory. You could be conscious and throughout the whole thing, but you don't remember.
Have you ever been under the influence of Versed, Nick?
No, what is it?
Versed is a hypnotic they give you before you go under, and I was put on Versed, and it's a hypnotic that you don't remember. They usually give it to patients before they shock their heart, if they need to shock their heart, and you don't remember being shocked.
Wow. Oh, yeah, we see, it was something like that. I remember looking up. I broke my leg and I went under general.
Yeah.
And for weeks afterwards, I wasn't quite the same.
Where does the soul go, Nick? That's a good question, because they do have a power to now bottle it and sell it wholesale. That's the scary part.
Well, that's the thing. Then your guest there were talking about the amount of data.
Right.
From a quantum standpoint, when you keep dividing and dividing and dividing and dividing, does it come a point where the data necessary to record this kind of stuff assumes certain things? Like, instead of describing absolutely everything, you might just say, well, we need if you take in a biological system, something like a base pair, you can compress the data to a certain degree. Is that what happens?
That's probably what they do, yeah. It's probably what they are going to do. It's just so many things now they can do. They can stretch the soul, they can compact the soul, it's almost as if we're computers now. They can actually defrag us. They can do all these things now with the data, and they can even screw up our neuronet, and in the process, I think it's like what Freeman said too. With CERN, they're able to go in. They're widening the hole. They're making the hole narrower. They're using antimatter to just warp the timeline and to warp our consciousness. It's just an amazing thing, the technology these days.
But you just inspired me. How about this for a thought? Is it possible, like art imitating life and life imitating art, is it possible that the whole essence of this is a movable beast, so to speak, that as almost the souls themselves could be responding to the fact that we have people looking at and for them, and that you may even have a situation that creates more or less of it's like the creating a food that nobody knew they wanted, then everybody loves, and they can't imagine life before. Is it possible that the looking for this information and this goal of compacting the soul and creating a bottled soul, they are almost influencing what they're finding? Does that make any sense?
Yes, that's the point. And another thing to think about, too, is where did they begin creating these essences, and was there a time in prehistory where they created essences such as these and they needed containers to fill them, and that's why we exist? And so now we have to create containers that are artificial in order to provide containers for these essences that we're creating with technology and magic.
Now we're up to Scientology.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, now we're talking about paradox.
Yeah, we are. But Nick, thank you so much for calling. Thank you so much for listening in on the national show.
But quickly, just in closing, you did say one other thing, and that was, you said time. Maybe time doesn't go just one way.
You're right. It probably doesn't. We'll find that out.
It
doesn't.
like a sphere.
Yeah. Nick, thank you so much for the call. Thank you. That's amazing call. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. We got Richard, John, Michelle, Brian, and Gary. We're going to get to you guys, too. And your phone calls. Call in tonight. Amazing topic. Amazing guests. with Freeman and Diablos Rex. We'll be back with more. Keep it here on Ground Zero.
FM News 101 KXL.
Got an opinion? Call KXL now. 503-417-9KXL or 877-733-1011.
Everyone is in on the secrets, and big things are being planned. Call Clyde Lewis now. Ground Zero.
Let's go quickly to BJ. BJ calling in from Salt Lake City. Hi, BJ. You're on Ground Zero.
Hey, Clyde. How you doing, man?
Good.
Hey, I was with you back in 1995 when you started the show, and huge congratulations to you for going national.
Oh, thank you.
I just wanted to let you know that I'm actually, I think I've got something on Rex here. I've got the devil living in my house, and I'm actually married to her. So I'm kind of going to suffer dire consequences from that remark. But I've got just one quick question.
Go ahead.
For Freeman, real quick, I was really kind of curious about Walt Disney, and I was kind of curious about the symbolism involved with the Epcot Center and the symbolism involved with the big giant ball. So that's kind of my one question, and I just want to let them take that, and I want to give you a big congratulations. And
thank you, BJ.
And continuous, and thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you for calling from Salt Lake. Thank you for being a fan since 1995. Fantastic stuff. Amazing. Okay, what about the big ball? Then we got to go to a break.
Ball. You actually find that in Astana as well in Kazakhstan. It has like a handprint from the architect up there, like something out of Total Recall. Check out Astana in Kazakhstan, because that's going to be one of your global capitals in the future. When we get to Walt Disney, we come back, we find out Walt Disney was one of the original knights of the De Molay Order, which is the Boy Scouts of Freemasonry.
A Jew.
Yeah, we don't really have any connections for his Freemasonic connections, but we do have him working with the Nazis in Disney. Now, let me just outline that Disney itself is a military-industrial complex. When you walk in the door, you give your thumbprint. You've given them your credit card information. Once you get into that big buckyball, they then take your biometrics and take your photograph for facial recognition technology, and then that all goes in the Disney Central Database, which is going straight into a military complex. The people who own the ball right now is Siemens, and you will see Siemens corporate logo over the Auschwitz showers. So just know who you're walking into when you walk into Disney World.
Wow.
That's all I'm saying.
Wow. Wow. I guess that explains why on Family Guy when they said they were in the Disney movie, it meant, oh, the Jews. I guess that's what it means.
Siemens, the procreative material, primum material,
yeah,
which is the generator of like all physical life. So yeah, it's like from life, its origins is within death.
We'll be back. Keep it here on Ground Zero.
More with Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero on FM News 101.
And his name is Jesus. There's only one God. And then he's going to pray down the tears and just worship God. Then he's going to worship God. And the Lord is going to do it. That means God has to do it. And then Jesus has to do it. And then God. Then Jesus. Wow. I love preaching.
Spirit did anoint him, and I believe he felt inspiration. His dad and I were surprised because he was saying victory, and we're going to have a red-hot revival, and to me that was unique. That's a term I haven't really used, red-hot revival, but that's kind of against a little 4-year-old child's thinking, and I certainly endorse it.
The last week I was in Las Vegas, and the Lord was, one particular scripture jumped out of my mind, and it just don't stop there. It says possessing your soul. And when I was meditating upon the word possessing your soul, and I said, hey, how can I possess my soul? And that's a big question to ask ourselves. How to possess the soul? So possessing the soul in times of distress.
Yeah, forgive my soul. Yeah, forgive my
Yeah, forgive my soul. Yeah, forgive my soul.
I'm Clyde Lewis. This is Ground Zero. Tonight, the power of the soul. The power of science and magic to contain a soul. Transfer it. Bend. Spindle. Mutilate it. That's what they want to do with it. They have the power now. My guests, Freeman and Rex Church, are on the show to discuss this very thing. If you want to call in tonight and get in on the conversation, 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. We go to Gary now in Billings, Montana. Hi, Gary. You're on Ground Zero.
Well, hello. How are you today?
Great. What do you have for us?
Well, actually, my thought is Mystery Babylon, to me, appears to be the religion in these last days, and Freemasonry seems to be the head of it. It's got so much control over our preachers and our teachers and stuff, and we all seem to be so government educated that we can't get by these blocks that Satan puts in our road. So I want to know what all three of you had for an opinion about Mystery Babylon being Freemasonry.
I have a feeling that Mystery Babylon is part of what they call the imperial cult. I don't know if it has anything to do with Freemasonry. I think Freemasonry anymore is a lot more powerless than it was in the past. There are darker aspects of it. There are secret societies that have darker magicians playing parts. I think to take Freemasonry and to paint it as one big conspiracy, I think is a little premature. But I think Mystery Babylon is anything that has to do with the imperial cult and the ecumenical cult of the pantheon of the earth, which is what they're trying to push on us with global sustainability. First it was global warming, now it's climate change, and it's global sustainability, the idea that certain people have to die in order for this planet to survive. So Mystery Babylon is that, and it also can be found in Belgium when you're dealing with the European Union and the woman who rides the beast. She's right there in Parliament, and they have a seat that's available. It's number 666 for the Antichrist when he shows up, if he ever does. What about you, Freeman?
Well, let me just speak out for Freemasonry a little bit, because one thing, we could never have an America without Freemasonry. It wouldn't have happened. I don't care what anyone thinks. They were the impetus for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the issue here is that we're dealing with a number of groups within there. So when you're looking at Freemasonry, and just as people would say Illuminati, this incorporates a whole host of people. So you've got your Blue Lodge, you've got the York Rite, and you've got the Scottish Rite as your three major players inside of Freemasonry. And currently, on FreemanTV.com, you can catch my interview with a Supreme Council insider, because there is a major war going on inside of Freemasonry, which we're calling the War of the Rites, where the York Rite and the Scottish Rite are really duking it out, because the Scottish Rite are the ones that we would call the quote-unquote Illuminati, or those that are heading towards this New World Order, and that we find their Council of 33 at the Supreme Council of D.C. to really be members of the dark arts, according to this insider that I interviewed, James Wright. So I have a Supreme Council insider coming out to me expressing the desire to say, look, you're judging Freemasonry by the Scottish Rite, and so let's just take it all into account, because Freemasonry is supposed to make good men better, and there is a lot to this rite and ritual that they go through that is good for humanity, but then there are these that are at the top that would have nothing but the power to themselves.
And now the Dark Lord speak. What do you say?
And outside of Freeman's very incisive perspectives on this, you would be talking about the nature of Babylon itself, which is a female entity, which Aleister Crowley talked about as being, we shall invoke Babylon, which is essentially the tried and true and prideful woman who is the creative general of all reality, at least the physical reality. So she's directly connected into Gaia, which is the resonance of the planets itself.
Isn't it Dianic worship, though?
Well, Dianic worship goes back to feminine spirituality, which, came after Demetrian spirituality, which was solar worship, which was masculine.
Curiously enough, that devil sign, the two fingers up, that Cornu. Everyone the Cornu. That's actually the symbol of Diana.
Well, it's also the manifestation of the dichotomy of good and evil, left and right, and the the elements to be found within the transdimensional opposites of each other found in physical reality. And Crowley was one of these who was very big on the idea that we should not think about these things as one, but think about them as none. And that's how he personified Babylon in and of itself, was that this fire of creative energy shouldn't have any opposites. It should be just general to the creative principle within nature itself.
There you go, Gary. What do you think?
Well, wasn't the original Babylon, the Tower of Babel and Nimrod and Semiramis and the first Trinity, Nimrod, Semiramis, and Thamus, the son of Semiramis? And so when you tie that original Babylon into it all, it is a religion.
The imperial cult, the idea of a religion, but I don't know if it's Freemasonry. Freemasonry was created by the mother religion. It was created by secret societies. Big secret here: secret societies were created by the Catholic Church.
Yeah,
they were done so to bring down Protestantism, but it didn't work.
Yeah. Well,
so that's what it's about, Gary. I appreciate the call.
I gotta agree. I gotta agree with that, basically.
Okay. All right, Gary. I appreciate the call.
Well, thank you.
Take care. Bye bye. Yeah, I learned that a long time ago that this is that's exactly what it's all about. There. Let's go to, I believe, Michelle. Michelle calling from Cedar Park, Texas. Hi, you're on Ground Zero.
Hi, yes, sir. I was just calling because I am fascinated with that number, and I was just wondering why there's no laws to, prevent people from getting that on license plates, Social Security numbers.
Which number is that? Which number is that?
Just 666s or even 46s is even more of the world. It's more a mark of the beast.
Well, you think there should be laws to? You think there should be laws to prevent you from getting 666 on anything?
Well, I don't know why it has come about that they're on license plates or that people allow it. Yeah,
Well, one of the laws that is 666 is a law that proves paternity. The United States Code 666 is the law that provides paternity. It's the law that a man must provide blood in order to show paternity for children and to pay child support. Do you know that?
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that. Wow, okay.
Yeah, so...
and I just wanted to make a comment that you had mentioned earlier about the cultural media. Just wanted to get, the last gentleman was talking about Babylonia. I think Kim Kardashian is the Babylonian whore. And, Charlie Sheen is probably a zombie, and Britney Spears talks about sin in her songs. And
she once said that she was the Antichrist. Do you remember that, Freeman?
She scrawled 666 on her forehead and tried to commit suicide. At an institution. She just tweeted to Mars. They landed the Martian rover Curiosity, and you could tweet to it. And so she tweeted to the Curiosity about how different Mars had looked since her debut of "Oops, I Did It Again," because on that video they find Britney's CD on Mars. It's a very esoteric video if you check this stuff out.
I will never move there.
I own land there. I have actually a deed. Janine got me for my birthday some land in Mars. So
yeah, I think she thought that Olympus Mons had something to do with breast size.
Who, Britney Spears? Oh.
Well, I mean, and then you look at Jennifer Lopez getting approved for a lesbian thing on ABC. You just look at her fruit. She's in a video with Pitbull, who has a song with the other lady, Havana Brown, that says, "The devil knows my number." If you listen closely to these rappers and their songs,
oh yeah,
I mean, the Bible clearly states that you will know them by their fruit, and it says, "Do not be deceived."
Satan hates rap.
But ABC
he wouldn't touch rap with
Disney
a 10-foot pitchfork.
So Satan hates rap.
He wouldn't touch rap with a 10-foot pitchfork or rock and roll.
But if you play,
thus speaks the
children of the devil. They're you can see it pretty black and white. If a guy dies in a strip club, he's not going to go to heaven. And what are your thoughts on
Yeah, he's probably pretty happy about that.
If you play "Yes We Can" in reverse, it actually says "Thank you, Satan." So I just want to throw that little bit in there. And then I wanted to add that ABC is actually Walt Disney company, ABC, and they are creating the new family. This is what they say. We have the modern family. We are creating the new family, and that's why you are seeing all of the homosexual programming coming out on ABC. It's part of the agenda. I'm not against anyone's personal choices, but when it's an agenda that's trying to be invoked, then I speak up. And ABC being Walt Disney being part of the eugenics project, absolutely, I'll stand up and talk about that.
Yeah, everybody that gets sent to hell that has their own jobs, they think everything is great when they see everybody else up to their necks in scatological matter, and they think they've got it pretty good because it's only up to their knees until the resident demon comes along and says coffee breaks over, back on your head.
Right.
Okay.
Well, my last thought is that if everything is already predetermined, because St. Thomas of Aquinas says that at the end of your life you're not going to have your guardian angel to protect you. You'll either have a devil to take you down and punish you, or an angel to take you up. What are your thoughts on that predestination stuff? Do you think people know that they're actually going to hell?
I don't believe in a hell.
No, honestly, I really do
Hell
think
is
that
other
these
people.
guys are thinking that. I think that is the impetus behind transhumanism. That's the reason they want to live forever. They know they've lost their souls, and the only way that they can keep from being torn down into the gates of hell are by staying alive. That's my theory.
Freeman, I'm a transhumanist. I'm an advocate of transhumanism, and I'm all about being able to supersede death, but it has absolutely nothing to do with corrupting other people. I don't care what other people do. I don't care what they want to listen to, what they want to eat, what they want to believe. It's just they will be able to. They will serve and suffer the diminishment of their own decisions.
What's that, Michelle?
The consequences of their free will and volition.
Nobody has free will.
If you're from a bad ancestry or a wrong lineage, are you going to go to hell because you're related to somebody like of Dracula?
No, it's all about will. It's all about personal initiative.
So,
you
Rex,
can't
you're
gain
not related to Dracula, are you?
Well, I'm related to Winston Churchill, who supposedly was related to Vlad Tepes, so who knows?
Okay, so you are related to.
Yeah, but I don't claim anything that I do or anything that I have going for me is related to anything that came before me. I mean, you can have the last name Lang, and you might have no connection to the German filmmaker, which means you may have no talent whatsoever. You can be a relative of the LaVey family, and you can get all of this attention because Anton LaVey was your grandfather, but you are a complete idiot. You have no ability to be able to demonstrate any higher abilities.
Barbara Bush, the daughter of Aleister Crowley?
No, that's a myth completely.
Freeman said it.
No. Sorry, we'll talk about that after the show. It's
Why
no
not?
Connection whatsoever.
George W. Bush, that's
one of the biggest fallacies out there.
I don't know. She kind of looks like him.
I agree. She looks like him, but most English people look like each other, just like people look like them. So
they all look the same. The English, they all look the same.
No, they're trying to debunk that on the Aleister Crowley for 2012.
Winehouse, Amy Winehouse. Come on, drunkard. Amy Winehouse and all her tattoos.
She's going to hell, Michelle. She's going to hell. Going to hell.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting. Here you have a Jewess who has all these tattoos, and by Talmudic law, she's forbidden to actually have any of those tattoos. So she's actually breaking the rules of her own spiritual forefathers.
And she's made in the image of God, just like every man or woman is.
Well,
Michelle, I love the call. I love you. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you so much. All right, take care. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye. I love people who indulge in the conversation like this. Is awesome.
Absolutely.
It's just awesome. You guys are great. Hey, you want to call in tonight, be a part of this crazy conversation? 888-673-3700. 888-673-3700. Where else can you find an occultist conspiracy analyst, a satanic god leader, and me? Whichever. We'll be back. Keep it here on Ground Zero.
FM News 101 KXL. This is Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis on FM News 101.
Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis.
Certainly a crazy night tonight on Ground Zero. We move now to Richard calling from Portland. Hi, Richard, on Ground Zero with Freeman and Diablos Rex. Go ahead, quick.
Hey, excellent show, man. You guys were talking about demonic possession earlier. And hey, Freeman, you there, man?
Absolutely.
All right, hey, buddy. I love you, man, to death. I like your whole friendship trip, man. I hope things keep going positive for you.
Thank you.
But I want to know if you believe in these aliens, Nephilim, demonic entities. Do you believe that these are a real creation, something that predates mankind, or do you think that they're some kind of tulpa or thought form? And I'd like to mention Jesus and the Ring of Solomon in this context. And thank you, guys. I'll take my answer off the air.
Thank you, Richard, for being the man. Thank you for calling in tonight. Okay.
Yeah, and actually, Rex and I had a pretty interesting discussion about this just last night aboard Miss Emily, our Mystery School Mobile Media Lab experiment. Currently, I'm running around in a school bus, just going around on what he was telling you, the friendship agenda, and we're trying to share this message with everyone that, the world can crumble around you, but friendship is still there. As far as extraterrestrials go, well, my father chased flying saucers for Project Blue Book, was on Killer One submarine with Jimmy Carter, and built nukes when I was born. So I was already brought into the belief system of believing in aliens or believing in flying saucers and extraterrestrials. So I've always been studying this from the aspect of not if it was going on, but why it was going on. And yeah, I firmly do believe that there has been an extraterrestrial current around since pre-man and into the future, and that we're talking about both spiritual sides and we're talking about manifested sides. Actually, we've had to change the very terms we use, so now alien is for a being that is actually incarnate, and extraterrestrial is now considered an extra-dimensional or otherworldly entity outside of that. So we're even having to change all the terms.
It's amazing. It's amazing how things are changing, and that's why we're here. That's why the show's here. And I'm glad that we're going to go into the next hour with a bunch of stuff here with you guys. I really thank you for being on my debut national show, because we just got word that we were all well received across the country, which is amazing. So we got one more hour, but just want to let everybody know that when we did the national show, the reviews are in. Ground Zero was a hit tonight. It was huge. People, I know, thank you. Yeah, rock and roll. So, we thank you for being a part of the show. And we want you to call in, 888-673-3700, 888-673-3700. Let us know what you think of the show tonight, because it's very interesting. We have done a very interesting, I think, we've done something very interesting tonight. We've created a new type of thought form, and I think that is something to be proud of. We'll be back with more. Keep it here on Ground Zero.
FM News 101 KX.
Some of the scenes you will witness may appear to border on fantasy.
Stand by. You have 5 seconds. 5. Information is free. 4, 3, there is hope. 1.
The loudspeaker spoke up and said, the loudspeaker spoke up and said, the loudspeaker spoke up and said, give up, give up,
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. So we've been talking about the spiritual conjuring, the idea that they're able to take spirits and do with them what they want. They now can hack into the brain. We're talking about taking discarnate spirits and putting them into dead bodies, the idea of putting them into fetuses, creating a moon child, and one of the things that came up during the break was walk-ins. And we were talking about walk-in spirits and the idea that there is a theory that sometimes when people die and they come back or whatever, they can have walk-in spirits. That's something that's been talked about for some time. A number of things that all go with the stories we've been talking about. The idea of the spiritual being, I guess, hijacked in a way. And we were also talking about leaders and how they too can be compromised, and how for the longest time people thought that Barack Obama had been groomed from the very get-go of being the president, or at least he knows a lot about intelligence because of his family ties to the CIA, his father's ties to Project Paperclip, the communist infiltration that his mother was involved with, the idea that he was a cutout. And so here we have Barack Obama that is the perfect Manchurian candidate president, or at least a Cambian changeling president, because, Freeman, weren't we talking about the fact that he has a scar that everybody says he's... And Prince William has one, too, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. The head scars came out a bit after I started talking about Obama being a clone. So my theories, and, I have these 6 DVDs out now, and the 5th one being Obama cloning in the coming space war, where I outline the whole theory of him being a clone of an ancient pharaoh, which was intriguing because this made him Akhenaten. And if you were discussing an Antichrist, and an Antichrist that would rise, Akhenaten would have been that man.
Right.
He was the first to bring about monotheism.
Right.
He is the head of the Rosicrucian order. He is the one who established this other secret society, Rosicrucianism.
Right.
And if anybody was going to come back for this brotherhood, it would be Akhenaten. And it absolutely... Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, Malaya, and Sasha all appear to be identical, not just similar, but identical to the first family of Egypt 3,500 years ago.
Really?
Identical. You have to see this one. You got to go to FreemanTV.com, look at the imagery, click on "Is Obama a Clone?" and have a look.
Well, Saddam Hussein once claimed that he was the clone, or at least I guess the reincarnation of the real King Nebuchadnezzar.
He was the reincarnation, different level, right?
Oh.
We're talking about serious cloning here.
We're talking about right from Akhenaten, we've got Obama, and that he has this heritage of being the spirit of this pharaoh.
So when you brought up the head scars, that's what it leads me to, because Akhenaten was known for his cone head. And so when you see those 2 scars running around the back of his head, to me, I'm like wondering, maybe did they have to remove the cone head?
Or maybe they put a plant in there or something to keep him pretty much under control. Who knows?
Yeah, that's they even named him after the renegade pharaoh. The Secret Service calls Barack Obama renegade.
So could they have put like we're talking about this whole spirit thing? Could they have put a spirit of a dead?
Okay, well, on the Avatar program, you see, they had to have the clone. They had to have the brother's brother so that they could put the proper body into, or transmit his soul into that genetic crafted being.
Sure.
So in the same way, I believe that they would attempt to transmit the soul through time. And that gets into a whole nother, with the relativistic heavy ionic collider.
Once again with
I have
CERN.
all the science. No, this is a different one.
Okay.
This one's in America, the RIC. The relativistic heavy ionic collider, who collided gold particles to manipulate space-time.
Right.
But so in that same level, we could see that they might be able to transmit a soul from the ancient past into a body receiving
So
today.
we have no proof, but we do have a consideration, a speculation that Barack Obama could be housing the spirit of a dead or a regenerated pharaoh.
What I have is every evidence except for Barack's own DNA. So I have every single piece of the puzzle laid out for you. You can go check it out. I've talked about this for a number of years now. And so, yeah, on that level. And then, so let's take this to Mitt Romney. Let's go ahead and, what about him?
What do we got on Mitt Romney?
Well, Mitt Romney, supposedly was declared dead in a car accident in 1968, which he actually had been in an accident, and the wife of one of the
the missions?
The missions.
Was he was on his mission when this happened, right?
She was actually killed, and she was actually killed in that. So you might be talking about the possibility of something of like foreign intelligence.
Did Mitt Romney die?
Downloaded into his consciousness.
Did Mitt Romney die in France?
Well, this is speculative as to actually what may have actually happened.
So Mitt Romney was in an automobile accident in 1968.
Right, with one of the
with the mission president's wife,
who actually did die in that, and if there was a foreign intelligence downloaded into his consciousness, it may very well have been something that was not germane to like what he actually was.
So are we suggesting too that Mitt Romney could be a changeling?
Well,
that he may have had an
the
intelligence, the spirit transferred into him after he died in France?
Well, if it's possible that they could actually have done it at that time, then yeah. Or he was a nadir or a resonant receptor for that. They might have been able to have done it. So who knows what kind of being one might be dealing with in the future? It might be.
So we could be dealing with a changeling in Mitt Romney as well. We could have a Cambion, somebody who has a spirit of someone else, and maybe the original spirit of him is not there.
Well, we're not dealing with normal human.
I mean, didn't he also? I think he got beat up or something. He was also beat up. I don't know if it was after he was shot.
I'm perfectly happy with the fact that my country is run by completely demonic beings.
Yeah, you like this election, huh?
Of course you are. Speaking of the devil, he's right there on TV. Right? Look at good old Mitt. He's a good-looking old man, and he's up there, and he may be our next president. What do you say to that, Rex?
I don't think it's going to happen.
You don't think so? You don't think we're ready for a Mormon?
No, I have other political
You don't think we're ready for a Mormon? Come on, you know Mormons.
Well, not ready for one. I just don't think that they're going to allow it to happen.
Oh,
well, you know, Clyde, I'm
sad.
about to be in a release a Hollywood picture called Don Peyote.
Okay.
And it's with Dan Fogler. You might know him from such films as Good Luck Chuck, where he was shown with the grapefruit, or Balls of Fury with the ping pong movie. But Dan Fogler is also running for president, so I just wanted to put out his campaign here on the air now. Vote Dan Fogler for president. Get rid of these losers, and let's move on to some comedy.
Get rid of the changelings, the ones that have walk-in spirits in their bodies, from Barack Obama to Mitt Romney, who died in France in 1968. There's something you don't hear on a show.
Definitely get out there and see Don Peyote, though.
Yeah,
you'll want to see this.
Okay, let's see. We have time for a call. Let's go to Doug in Vancouver, Washington. Hi, Doug. You're on Ground Zero.
Hi, Clyde. Hi.
Did you know that Mitt Romney died in France in 1968?
I had no clue.
Mitt Romney died in France in 1968. He was in a car crash and he died.
Which raises interesting questions about what type of essence may actually have been
He's the zombie president. That's what he is. Or the zombie presidential candidate. Doug, what's your question?
Well, I've been listening to your show for a couple nights here, and I really grown to like it.
Thank you.
Especially tonight, raised my curiosity. I've been when I was younger, I watched a show called Ghost in the Shell.
Oh yeah, Ghost in the Shell. That's a manga thing.
Yeah, it was scary to think of that being a possible. Even someone could think that up.
That's exactly what it's about. It's the idea of downloading a soul into a character.
And then a couple of years ago, I was watching, I think, History Channel or Discovery Channel, and they were showing, I think it was called Robo Sapien, and it was talking about connecting apes or chimps to a computerized arm. And they can use their brain alone just with a thought and control the arm.
Right.
And then it connected the person then they connected it to a person.
Yeah, I witnessed that. Yeah, that was a great show, and she was using thoughts to make the arm work.
Yeah, so that just scares me to know how far we're going to go to in our future. Are we going to end up being something like the Animi, or I don't know. I just thought.
I think that's some brilliant stuff coming out of you, Doug, because I forgot all about Ghost in the Shell. I remember I used to watch that religiously. I loved the animation on that because I was a big fan of Akira. I saw Akira, and then I was turned on to manga with Ghost in the Shell, watching that and several other animes, and that was one of them that really stuck out in my mind as being something very interesting. The idea of consciousness being released into an internet and then having that consciousness placed into a human body or into a clone. That's what we have coming in 2045, or what, even 10 years from now they're predicting. Perhaps we may have it in 10 years.
Well, and then in that show, the guy was, and not in Ghost in the Shell, but in the actual show on the History Channel, he was working on a way he was trying to be the first person to download his self into a robot so he doesn't have to have a physical self anymore. That's his goal.
That's amazing. So,
that's just scary.
Well, Doug, thank you so much for calling in and telling us about that. Ghost in the Shell. I'm going to have to go watch that now again, see if I can get it on free or maybe buy a video of it. I used to have a copy of it, then I lost it when I moved here to Portland. Oh, you have a copy of it? Jordan says he has a copy of Ghost in the Shell, so maybe I'll have a big sit-in and watch it. It's a great film.
All right. Well, I'll keep listening to the show.
Thank you, Doug. You're the man. Thank you for calling in tonight.
All right.
Take care. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. Tonight on Ground Zero, talking with Freeman and with Diablos Rex about the download of the spirit, the download of the soul. And tonight talking also about our presidents. Maybe they have got groomed souls that have been placed inside them. Barack Obama, of course, the soul of Akhenaten, which is an amazing thing that Freeman has talked about. And then Rex Church telling us that Mitt Romney died in 1968 in a car crash and that they revived him, brought him back with another soul, perhaps. That's something to even speculate about, but still, it's creepy to even understand that perhaps Mitt Romney could have been the resurrected or even the zombie presidential candidate because he died in 1968. And I just looked it up. Yeah, he was in that car crash in 1968. Thank you, Rex, for that. We'll be back with more. Keep it here on Ground Zero.
KXL, suspending reality nightly. Got an opinion? Call KXL now. 503-417-9KXL or 877-733-1011.
This is not a test. It is the future. Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis.
888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. Talking with Diablos Rex and also Freeman here. You just brought up something about AI, artificial intelligence, the Steven Spielberg film, and you were talking about
there was
magic.
Very specific set of words that were actually used to activate the child being, and that they had to have them. They had to be spoken in a specific sequence, and that once they were spoken, they would imprint. They would allow the artificial human child, the artificial being, to imprint upon the living mother in a real world fashion, and they would be eternally connected.
Right.
So we have the ability to be able to do the same thing with with consciousness in an artificial way too. We can take supposedly real biological consciousness, download it into various other types of things, but we can create artificial consciousness as well. So even though we have beings that are silicon-based as opposed to organically based, so they're mecha as opposed to biological, we can still do the same thing.
Well, I was talking about also...
We're talking about the completely new form of being that we can create, which could be a combination of both things.
Right. But it's like the Golem, They used magical words to activate the Golem, which of course was a clay man.
A clay man out of the Kabbalah, and which was activated through the use of a specific word, which was across its forehead, and the only thing we had to do to be able to turn it off was remove one letter. So it went from life to sleep, and then it would just...
That's very biblical too when you think about it. It says, in the beginning
all
was the word.
Biblical literature is Judaic.
But in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God.
The word was with God, and the word was a God.
Yeah. So the words activated humankind. Let us go down, make man our own image,
and blew into the earth, to the dust of the earth, and
so we'll do the same. We'll do the same.
Well, we have become gods.
It's like in Prometheus, right, where they talk about how we have become the gods.
We are God. Yeah.
We are God.
We've stolen the fire as Prometheus, and now it's upon us to do the same thing. It has been postulated that the only reason that we're here, and when we all talk about why is there human life in the first place? It's like what meaning does life have? And it's been subjected to analysis is that the only reason that it's here is to spread the spore of the generation of humanity further out into space, and there may very well be other beings that are doing the same thing. Which is a fairly presumptuous idea, considering that we think ourselves as being so important that's what we're actually supposed to be doing. But it proves that life doesn't really have any meaning. The only real meaning that's there is that which we've given it. And at this point, it's all about subjugation of nature. The Bible in and of itself talks about, filling the earth and subduing it. Well, it's all about subduing of nature, which would place the Hebrew God in a rather strange position, and that is, of the manipulation of matter on the part of humanity, which means that everything that we have going for us now, both good and evil, is a product of this personality.
I think I found the 7 words. The 7 words that were used to activate the boy: cirrus, Socrates, particle, decibel, hurricane, dolphin, tulip.
Did you say Sirius?
Yeah. Sirius, like cirrus cloud. Cirrus.
Oh, okay.
Socrates, particle, decibel, hurricane, dolphin, tulip. That's supposed to, okay. The words are supposed to represent abstract ideas that make us human. Hurricane equals chaos. Socrates, thought. Let's see. So there you go.
I'm really curious about
Cirrus,
Spielberg.
Socrates, particle, decibel, hurricane, dolphin, tulip are the 7 words that were used to activate the boy.
Wow.
And I don't think anybody ever stopped to wonder what that was all about. Because it was an invocation. It was a magical invocation.
Definitively a magical invocation.
It was a magical invocation. And Spielberg, of course, is Jewish. So he has the golem. I had Rabbi Winkler on this program, who is a very, very interesting mystical. He was telling me about the Dybbuk and how to activate a Dybbuk, which was the equivalent of an attached soul. We were talking about attaching souls. Well, you can attach souls to inanimate objects.
Yeah, it's called tolku. That's what they call it.
The tolku
in Tibetan mysticism.
Right.
That's something that only the highest monks in Tibetan Buddhist mysticism can actually accomplish.
And there are words you have to use to activate the Dybbuk, or to put the Dybbuk in his box. So, cirrus, Socrates, particle, decibel, hurricane, dolphin, tulip. Somebody please, I'm going to read them again. Cirrus, Socrates, particle, decibel, hurricane, dolphin, tulip. Oof.
First thing you should be analyzing here is the numerical value of each one of those words.
In the geometric.
That's right. And then adding them together and see what you get.
Maybe somebody might find some. Maybe we'll get you the news for it later on the show. Anyway, 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. I'm with Diablos Rex and Freeman tonight. Very fascinating show. We'll be back with more. Keep it here on Ground Zero. I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. Tonight has been one hell of a night. Nothing more creepy than the idea of reciting a 7-word spell to activate a robot that can love you but is not real. The love is real, but the robot is not real. The uncanny valley, the idea of the soul being captured within inanimate objects. The idea of having them there and being able to release them at will is an amazing thing. We go now to T, calling from Portland. Hi, T, you're on Ground Zero.
Wow, great show tonight, Clyde. I mean, this is awesome. Having Freeman, Rex, and you, it's like back in the Ground Zero Lounge. I remember I was there at that show. I remember Freeman talking about the fish head symbolism and all that, and you guys were talking about CERN.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, wow. I mean, this is awesome. And really, I think you guys should do a podcast every month. You guys each have very unique perspectives. And I think that'd be a great idea if you guys did, just an hour or something.
The Infernal Trinity on the Internet. That's what we call it, the Infernal Trinity.
Yeah.
What's that? What's that, Freeman?
Maybe I'll be able to get you guys onto my podcast over at FreemanTV.com. Yeah.
I'd love it. It'd be great.
That would be awesome.
Definitely.
All right. We got agreement all around. Thank you,
We got agreement. We'll give you. Thank you for the great idea. We'll be on Freeman's broadcast pretty soon.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. So what do you want to talk about tonight, T?
Well, really, I mean, first of all, I'd like to congratulate you on your syndication and on your big night.
Thank you.
And the next, I mean, wow, you guys have just touched on so much tonight. There's just so much going on at the same time. We got all these shootings going on, all these big events, the government ramping up for something with all the ammunition. And then there's, like you guys are pointing out, all these rituals and symbolism, and it's just so hard to keep track of it all. It's so hard to comb through it to see what's what, because it's it's ramping up. There's more and more of it, like every day, and I almost can't even believe it.
Right. It just is amazing in the thought processes of where is the spirit of America? Where have they taken all the souls that would normally scream out for freedom, scream out for the ability to live happily in a country that is supposed to be looking out for the best interests of the people, taking their pain away, or at least keeping the pain at bay, fresh food, fresh water, not even that anymore, people fighting for everything. The spirit and soul has been diminished, has been tranquilized, and now we have to deal with our bestial selves, which is something that I think was the underlying theme of the show tonight, where we didn't come right out and say it, but the idea was that we've been made into beasts by a beastly group of people who want to manipulate and warp the soul.
No, we've always been beasts, Clyde, and beasts that forgot that that's what we were and decided that dreamt of being humans,
right,
as opposed to humans that dreamt of being beasts. So it's like that's our natural productivity. So we shouldn't feel bad about
keeping
that.
us beasts is to really keep us down, to keep us on a lower level, so we're not really paying attention to what all is going on.
I believe that animals are freer than humanity because they are truer to their natures. That's just my perspective. I'm not trying to...
So do you think we're lying to our nature, Rex, when we're being...
Yeah, I think we've been
behaving?
conditioned against that over time and space and circumstance.
So what, would we be predatory beasts if we weren't curtailed?
We're most definitively predatory animals.
Would you rather see a world of us being predatory?
We already are. We just delineate that into moralistic terms. We try to give new definitions to it to make ourselves feel more integrated into the human construct.
So would you say the killers?
We all have the killer instinct.
So all the killers are more normal than those who are behaved.
Well, you look at somebody like kind of like a construct in a story, like Hannibal Lecter, for instance. Here was somebody who's like a super predator, but also highly intelligent, but very in tune with his own nature. And even though he realizes deep down inside of his heart of hearts that, in any normal, quote, sane society, they would never have let him live, they did nevertheless. And why did they do that? Because humanity is still too soft and involved in the idea that we need to fetishize the heartbeat. If it beats, it has worth, and therefore it should be kept beating. And maybe that's not the best thing.
So what you're saying is that basically is sort of a duality where we are beasts, however, we're trying to get away from that by morally reasoning that way.
We should just accept the fact that we have this dualistic nature and work the best we can within that. And that's a satanic perspective. And outside of that, there will be a position of eternal conflict, especially when you say, well, it's only got to be this way, or it's only got to be that way. And we can't have any kind of any type of equilibrium between the two. So.
Well, great. That's all I had tonight.
Well, T, thank you so much for calling the program, and thank you for being part of our national night tonight. I was very excited to be a part of it as well with all of you, and thank you so much for your support.
Yeah. Have a great night, Clyde.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye. Numbers to call tonight, 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. Tonight on the program, we've talked about the transference of entities, the idea that we can transfer them to the fetus, to the fertile mind, and in the mind that is separated from the physical body. And I've been saying that I think sometimes that this isn't what we should tamper with. It's far more, I think, profane to tamper with the soul, to put the soul in a container sometimes. And, if we put it in a container, then we should release it into a place where it's not going to be harmed. And so, but to put it into a container where we can abuse it and use it for our own needs. See, I've always said to ghost hunters when I go out on ghost hunts, they say they want to send these entities to the light. I always get angry about that because it's like, I don't want to force anybody to do anything against their will. So if I force you into the light, or if I say, go to the light, I don't think it's fair. But I mean, if we were to somehow find a way to transport spirits, if we could, put them in a box, or put them, the Dybbuk box. We had the guys on the talk about the Dybbuk. If we were able to put them into a box and then say, okay, we're releasing you now into a place where you can wander if you wish. Or if you find your way back to the light, if that's what you choose, then fine. But no, it's the idea that we want to take a soul, we want to keep it contained, whether it in flesh or in robot form or whatever. And so what we're doing is we are becoming the owner of a soul. We can copyright a soul. We can put a moniker, just like on a genetically modified food, we can put a marker on the soul and say, we own that soul. And that's not right. I think that's wrong.
Right, you're talking about slavery.
Well, Battlestar Galactica is the Mormon creation myth. Their gods come from Kobol
Glenn
instead
Larson,
of Kolob.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, and they say it all happened before and it'll all happen again. And honestly, if you watch the Battlestar Galactica series, or more especially the Caprica series, you'll see, the science fiction representation of exactly what we're talking about here, because they're creating this virtual heaven. And the Cylon race has now formed their religion out of apotheosis of being able to send their souls into this virtual heaven, and they can live there forever.
Oh, man, it's true. Yeah. Battlestar Galactica is an interesting, definitely an interesting science fiction thing to drop.
It's all part of revelation of the method. It's just the processing of information.
So it is predictive programming.
Outside of predictive programming, and then sent into the general mindset, and which gets downloaded and processed subjectively.
I find it interesting. It comes from a Mormon.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
It's Mormonism.
One more level of that. The Barack Obama administration were actually all the characters of SG-1 back in the 90s. So how predictive was that? You got to see that for yourself again, but it's the truth.
Science fiction becomes reality. Revelation of the method. Casey, hi. You're on with Rex Church and Freeman. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm really loving the topics and the subject that's been shared. I come from a lot of this. Back in the 70s, when I was growing up in my generation, I was more into backmasking and stuff like that back then, and stuff
yes,
that
we
the guys
can.
could cover. It's been up my alley because I've never really studied anything, as far as reading material goes, as far as not reading something that had subject and depth to it. And like I said, I studied a lot of backmasking back in the 70s, and like Stairway to Heaven was popular for a long time, in 8 years.
Here's to My Sweet Satan.
Yeah, exactly. And when that song is played backwards, it says in there, you must live for Satan. Satan is God, and and they just the people kind of laugh it off. But same token, when they ask Jimmy Page or Robert Plant how I got in there, and they go, well, we don't really know. And Jimmy Page was quoted for saying, well, I go to seances from time to time, and I'll hear things.
Well, he was a Crowleyan magician.
Hey, he lived in Crowley's house on the Loch Ness.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, the Boleskine house.
And now they're saying that perhaps there were a lot of entities that were existing in that house.
Yeah, and supposedly that was responsible for the death of John Bonham and several other people that had partied and drank too much there. And yeah.
Well, I just challenge you to take Yes We Can and reverse it and see what happens.
Right.
Or just watch my video, Obama Satanic
Youth. Do you know what Jesus loves you is backwards?
No.
We smell sausage. Just thought I'd tell you that.
All right.
We got somebody's nose too close to somebody else's loincloth.
No. Casey, thanks for the call. No, you know who taught me that was Reverend Stang from the Church of the Subgenius.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
Doug.
Sniffing somebody's loincloth.
Praise Bob. Yeah, exactly. Let's go to Dave. Dave, hi, you're on Ground Zero.
Yeah, howdy. Good show and stuff. My question was and stuff, you're talking about symbolism and everything, and I'm not a religious guy and stuff, but it's shown and stuff, in the Revelations in the Bible, how it talks about the first beast giving power to the second beast, keep men from buying, selling, and trading unless they have the mark. Anyway, and stuff, the guy showed me and stuff. If you take the letter A and start with 6 and just add multiples of 6, B would be 12 and so on. And if you take the word computer and you take the numbers you got from the multiples of 6 and you add it up and stuff, it comes up to 666. And it's kind of a weird coincidence.
Well, it's Freeman's W's too, saying that the W symbol is actually a 6. And so you got www for the World Wide Web, so you got 666, which is your protocol, your
Which came from CERN, whose corporate logo is 666.
The first position of the beast, integrated with the second beast, was the passage of the Aeon of Thelema onto the Aeon of Kepher. So it was Crowley passing on his position of authority, spiritual authority, onto the secondary Neo-Magus, which would have been Michael Aquino, who was the high priest.
And he died when he was a kid, too, wasn't he?
And founder of the Temple of Set.
Michael Aquino.
No, he's still alive.
But didn't he die when he was a child?
He was born dead, and then he was revived.
So we had a spiritual...
which raises questions about what kind of force may have reacted.
Yeah, so now we have Michael Aquino.
He also had a swastika of hair on his chest.
Mitt Romney, Barack Obama, Prince William. There's one, and also Kate has a scar on her head too. She's a scarhead. So all of those guys probably had something done to their heads. And they were implanted with a changeling spirit. What do you think?
Well, she's the best looking
changeling spirit there is.
Well, the Parliament they've had there in a while.
Dave, what do you think?
Yeah. My deal was getting at, from what I read in there, it's like, it says the first beast give breath on the second beast, so it put that object to life, you know what I'm saying?
Well, maybe the beast is the internet. Maybe the beast giving life to several beasts is the internet, and we are all as part of the beast system by participating in the internet.
Deciphering of the stele of revealing, which was the passage of occult information from the ancient god Horus to via its prima materia from the god Set, and then it was meant to reach a specific personality which was ready to reintegrate this Aeon.
Now, and if we can say that
was processed down through there, from those two gods down to the avatar of the new Aeon, which is the Aeon of Horus, which was Crowley. And
I'm
the
itching to say something. I'm itching to say something.
Go ahead.
Right. So he's talking about the internet. Dave is, right? And we're talking about the internet. We're talking about the possibility of the beast, okay? Yeah. This is just speculation. I'm not saying that this is what I believe. But think about this. So you take the internet, right, as the way it is. Now, the internet itself could eventually become what? The consciousness. It could be sentient. You're right. It could be sentient. So we get a sentient consciousness that is the internet, and we take that sentient content and download into a brain of a human. Mm-hmm. What do we have, Dave?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We have God.
Well, that's the LHC grid. You see, CERN created the World Wide Web, but now they've come out with the LHC grid, which is 160,000 interlocked fiber optic line mega supercomputer that's way beyond the World Wide Web. So the grid is the new web. The grid is the one you're looking for.
Maybe so act independently of any type of
they've
download the entire
organic matter, and may say, like, you're not going to push me down into that. I'm going to.
So we've already created our God, and it's called the consciousness of the internet to be downloaded into an artificial brain. That will be the end result.
And I just wanted to mention that the Stela of Revealing there at the Egyptian Museum was numbered 666.
Yeah, that's correct. That's how it was, and it was. Leah Hersig?
That was just its identification number. Here's item number 667.
Wow. And that's how Crowley discovered it initially. So,
the combination lock on that suitcase in Pulp Fiction.
Was
666.
Was that 666?
Yeah, it was.
No, it's Crowley's wife who pointed them out.
You want to be looking at now.
She was in a trance when she pointed.
Dave, look what you've done to us. Look what you've done. Look what you've done. I love you, man. Thank you for being a part of the show. Huh?
All right. Yeah, I was just wondering what the odds, the odds and stuff mathematically, taking multiples of 6 and the word computer and it coming up.
There's no such thing as coincidence.
No, there's no such thing as coincidence. And Dave, if you think too hard, your head will explode. And I don't want to hear about it in the news. You got me? Take care, buddy. Bye-bye. Thanks. Okay, 888-673-3700. 888-673-3700. Boy, we're getting deep. We'll be back. Keep it here on Ground Zero.
KXL After Dark. If you question it, you're doing it right.
This is not a test. It is the future. Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis.
Okay, is anybody ready for the reviews of tonight's show? Okay, we got this. We got, let's see. Tuned into what I thought was Coast to Coast. Oh my gosh, what is this? Guy says, me too, Janet. This is like the Art Bell days. Refreshing. I'm not even trying to go up the dial to one of the other Coast to Coast stations. shout out for a great show. The guy that said his wife was the devil will be grounded tonight. Mike from Dayton, Ohio says, yeah, the whole country knows she's the devil now. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Holy crap, Batman. Ground Zero live on radio. So happy. No, we were on XM radio tonight. We love you. We knew first time we heard you that you were going to go places. So excited, tuning in, cranking up Ground Zero. Gosh, a lot of good reviews tonight. A lot of people saying how wonderful the show was. You guys made it good. You guys made it great. Gosh, I could just go through a lot of people loving the show tonight. Freeman, thank you so much for being on the show. So glad you're in town on my debut. Remember I told you when we were in the Bay Area, I said, hey, buddy, you're going to go on my show national. I know you haven't been on Coast to Coast, but you're going to be on my show. And what a show it was tonight. We just blew it out of the water. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Diablos Rex, my man, having you come in was such a great treat. I know you came in from out of nowhere, but gosh, it's always nice to have you. It's always nice to have you when all my big events go down. You're always there, man, and I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And the people that are listening tonight, you made it. You made it with me. You make me so happy. I'm glad you're out there. I'm glad you've supported me since 1995. We are now national, and we're going to make it work. Thank you for the support, and thank you for calling. Thank you for being fans of Ground Zero. I love you all. Hope to see you soon. We're going to be here tomorrow night. Take care. Good night from Ground Zero.